All right, cool. Look, so as you guys know, this is a live masterclass. So this isn't recorded, as I'm sure you can probably tell. And today we're going to be covering the six-figure deal sourcer strategy. So for those of you who've been following me for a while on Facebook, you would know that this is something I've been going on about for about 3 years now. We actually might be going slightly over 3 years now. And I've taught hundreds of people this strategy, and they're absolutely crushing it with this strategy. So what I'm going to be doing today is trying to break it down for you in as much detail as I can. Ideally, I'd like you to be able to leave the call with some actionable steps so you can actually do these things. You know, I've joined many a webinar, masterclass, seminar in the past, and literally ended up sitting there and listening to a bunch of information, but walking away with nothing that I could actually do. Right. So it's kind of like, okay, you filled me up with all this info, but what do I do next? I want to do the complete opposite of that. I want to give you as much information as possible, which is similar, of course, but I want you to walk away from here knowing exactly what to do, as in you can just dive straight into this and just start taking action. So for those who stay to the end of the call, I've got an exclusive offer that I'm going to put forward to you, an offer that I haven't put out ever before in the 3 years that I've been doing this. So if you stay to the end, you get to benefit from hearing that offer. So again, just let me know in the chat if you guys can hear me okay. I want to make sure that you don't miss anything, right? So today we're going to cover why Facebook groups are gold mines for your deal sourcing business and how to use them properly. Again, for those of you who've been following me for a while, you'd know that I talk about Facebook groups all the time. To me, Facebook groups are absolute gold mines once you understand how to navigate them properly. So we're going to go over that in detail today. How to find the hottest areas for rent-to-rent deals. So when I say hottest areas, I'm talking about in terms of, are there a bunch of investors, buyers actively looking for deals in that area? So I'm going to show you how to find those areas using the Facebook groups. I'm also going to show you the power of having a qualified investor list and how to build one within a matter of days. And there's going to be a few examples that I show you as we kind of work our way through the presentation. Again, for those of you who've been following me for a while, you would have seen I'm quite transparent actually with the results that the guys in the program get. So you would have seen just over the past couple of days, a few of the newer members who have absolutely crushed it, and they built their investor lists using the steps I'm going to give you guys literally within a week or so, right? I think one of them actually done it in less than a week, which is crazy, and sold a deal. So I'm going to be covering that for you. We're also going to cover why having a network of co-sourcers and agents is so valuable and how to build one within days. So for me, once you've built your investor list, the next thing you should really be doing is building your network of co-sourcers and agents so that they can start providing deals for you that you can sell to the investors, rather than you going straight from building a list to trying to secure a deal directly from a landlord yourself. You know, there's only so much you can do, especially at the beginning. You're going to be a one-man band. So it's better for you to leverage other people's deals and smash it doing it that way, which is how a lot of the guys within the program have sold their first couple of deals. We're also going to go over why classified websites like Gumtree are the best place to find motivated landlords and how to do it. Very straightforward. There's no rocket science behind it. At the end of the day, these guys are advertising their properties themselves. So there's already an element of motivation there. Just the fact that they've decided to go down that route tells us that, okay, potentially there could be a conversation to be had. And because they've advertised it themselves, we have the luxury of being able to go directly to them, and as long as we're having the right conversation, we can secure these deals and again, sell them to the investors that we've added to our list. So I'm going to go over that. We're also going to go over how to operate this business 100% remotely. So I'm talking about no viewings, no meetings. You can operate this business from anywhere. If you're someone who doesn't really like to go out and meet people and, drive up and down to viewings and things like that, then this is perfect for you because you don't have to do any of that. And again, if we're just talking about the results that I've been kind of going on about over the past, well, I mean, again, we've been going over results for 3 years, but just the more recent ones, again, these are guys that have started from scratch, and because they're working full time when they've joined and have kind of followed the process the way that I've shown them, they've managed to sell these deals not only in a very, very quick turnaround time, but without them having to physically visit these properties or physically meet this investor or meet this landlord or meet this agent. So it is 100% remote. So we're going to go over that as well. So there's going to be a lot for me to unpack today. So again, just to make sure that everything's coming across nice and clear, please tell me in the chat whether or not you're having any issues seeing the whiteboard. You can hear me, you can see me. Also, of course, I can see the whiteboard on my screen, but I don't know whether or not I need to zoom it in a little bit more so it's a bit more clearer for you guys, or whether it's too zoomed in. So please, guys, talk to me in the chat and just let me know that everything's coming across nice and clear. Ravi said, "Can you see us, or I can turn it off?" I can see you guys, but it's fine. I can see you, Ravi. Looks like you're having a nice stroll. I think you're the only one with the camera on other than myself. So yeah, you can keep it on or you can turn it off. Completely up to you, mate. But again, thank you so much for jumping on. Appreciate your time. Okay, guys, I'm going to assume everyone can hear me okay and see me okay, because I can't see any more comments about it. So let's just keep going. So just to get an idea of who I've got in the room, kind of like your experience and how deep I really need to kind of go into this strategy, can you just tell me a little bit about the current status of your deal sourcing business in the comment section? So if you're a complete newbie, you haven't even started, haven't even registered your company yet, you haven't done any of that, let me know in the chat, complete newbie. Or if you've already started, which some people have when they come to me, they've started, but they just don't know how to actually get to the point of getting that first sale. Again, let me know in the chat. Or if you're someone who's already doing this, smashing it, selling deals, making money consistently, also please just let me know in the chat. It just gives me an idea of who I'm talking to in the room. At the moment, all I can see is boxes, black boxes with names, right? So I have no idea where everyone is in their journey. So just give me a brief summary. That would be really helpful, guys, if you can, just in the chat. Thank you, Ravi. I can see Ravi said okay. Talk to me, guys. Just write in the chat and just let me know. That'll be really helpful. So Trust said, currently on the third stage where I'm sourcing and selling deals to investors. Okay, brilliant. And I'm going to assume this is your first. This will be your first sale when you actually get a sale across the line. So just let me know, Trust. Anyone else talk to me? Fatu says, I have registered my company, but I'm not getting any deals at the moment. I work full-time as a support worker. Okay. All right, Fatu. Well, what I'm going to go through today is going to be really useful for you because, as I said, the guys that are selling deals, some of them are working full-time, as well. But with the way that I'm showing them how to operate this business, they're managing to do it just fine. We actually have a number of people in the group who, when they joined, they were working full time, and off the back of the money they're making from sourcing, they've actually quit their job. And I've posted about this. This isn't something like a secret or anything. I've posted about this on my page, and you can kind of see it in wherever I've put content out there. But yeah, people, it's definitely doable. You just, of course, need to know exactly what to do. So you've registered your company, so you've made the first step. So now you just need to know what to do next, right? And I'm going to cover a lot of that on this call. In fact, I'm going to cover all of it on this call. I'm going to try not to leave anything out on this call. Again, like I said, I'd love for you to walk away from this call being able to just get started and just do this in your own time. And then, of course, if you need help, if you need support, if you want someone to hold your hand, someone you can reach out to every single day and say, hey, this is the obstacle I'm facing. What do I do? Or this is what someone's asked. I've never heard that before. What do I say? How do I tackle this? How do I overcome that? If you need that, then of course, that's something I'll kind of speak with you guys later on. But for now, I'm just going to give you all of the steps, and then it's over to you to try and get it done. So stay tuned, Fatu. Dane said, I'm currently trying to qualify investors. Okay, brilliant. Well done, Dane. What areas are you covering, Dane? Have you picked your areas? And Trust said, no, already had my first sale a couple of weeks ago. Oh, yes, actually, I remember speaking with you, Trust. I think you messaged me. We spoke via the free group. So yeah, I do actually remember. And well done. Congrats again. Really good. And yeah, let's try and get that next one across the line. Definitely. And Emma said, I'm actually a newbie and I'm eager to learn. You're going to learn a lot today, Emma. I promise you. You're going to walk away from this call knowing exactly what to do next. Fatu said that would be amazing. Thank you. No problem. Dane is covering Derby, Leicestershire, and Nottingham. Okay, so good areas. Dane, just one question. I won't go into it too much right now because we're going to cover it during the presentation. But how did you pick those areas? Did you pick those areas based on demand, as in you could see that there's loads of demand in those areas already within the Facebook groups, for example, or was you just already aware of these areas and you just kind of picked for no particular reason? Just let me know in the chat because it's something I'm going to be going over, actually talking about in this presentation, and it's quite important as well. Okay, so good. So some good answers. So it's good to see where everyone is with it. From Facebook groups, and it is closer. Okay, no problem. Good. Well, as long as you can see there's demand there, that's brilliant. That's exactly how you should be doing it. Okay, guys. So you've told me a little bit about where you are with things right now in your deal sourcing business. It will be great to get an idea of where you'd like to take it. So, for example, on this presentation, I'm going to show you how to take this business from zero or wherever you're at the moment to at least 10K per month, right? And I'm going to show you examples of people doing it. Only a couple of examples, to be honest. We have over 150 examples of people smashing it, making their 10K, selling their first deal, making that 3K. So it would be great to know where you would like to take it. Are you aiming for those 10K months, or are you quite modest and saying, you know what, I'd be okay with just 3K? You know, I sell one deal a month, I make £3,000, I'm happy with that, you know? Or are you thinking a little bit bigger, like some of the guys in the group? You know, are you trying to make 20K a month, 30K a month, 50K a month? So tell me, just let me know in the chat again. Again, this just gives me an idea of where everybody's head's at. You know, I'm very big on mindset, and as far as I'm concerned, I can give you the strategy all day, right? But if your mind isn't on the same page as what I'm about to show you, then you're probably not going to take action, firstly. So it's pointless. And secondly, you're just going to give up after a while, right? Because you're not even aiming as high as this could necessarily take you to. So it's just, again, it's just a good exercise to know where people are at. So just let me know in the chat, guys, and then we're going to get straight into it. Okay, brilliant. So Ravi said, I'm fully compliant. Amazing. Well done, Ravi. So you're good to go. You're ready. He said, made my company and some social proof, etc. Gone to many agents, however, just not been getting deals that stack well, and also struggling around the 90-day rule. Okay, so you're covering London. My next steps are to build an investor list. I'm based in Surrey, very close to Heathrow sides, so I'm being given deals by agents, but Greater London. Okay, all right, brilliant. Ravi, definitely what I'm going to show you today, mate, for someone like you who's maybe a little bit more progressed than maybe some of the other guys, this is going to be really useful for you, because I can straight away see maybe why you're not making as much progress as you need to, because you've got part of the structure set up, but the fact that you're saying your next steps is to build the investor list tells me you obviously don't have an investor list yet. And honestly, as a deal sourcer, your investor list is the backbone of your business. So important, so important. Literally, you can go without having any deals, right? But you can't really go without having any buyers. And again, I'm going to show you guys some examples of why this is so important. But as an example, if I have a list of investors that are looking for rent-to-rent deals in London, but I have no deals for whatever reason, I can't secure deals from agents, I can't secure deals directly from landlords, I can still make money because I can get deals from Ravi, for example, right? Or I can get deals from Dane or whoever's in my network that's securing deals in the same area. I can still sell the deals, right? Whereas and that's because I've got a qualified investor list built up front, which I'm about to show you guys exactly how to do. Whereas if I've only got deals but no buyers, I'm struggling. Reason why I'm struggling is because who's going to buy the deals from me? I'm going to post it in the groups, and I pretty much have to cross my fingers and hope that a serious investor stumbles across that post, right? Or I might post it in the WhatsApp groups, and it's the same thing. I've got a kind of hope, right? It's a reactive strategy when you just get deals, but you haven't already got the buyers. So this is the whole mindset behind the way that I do things, and I honestly believe that because we're doing it that way, that's why the guys are getting such results so quickly, because it's almost as though we reverse engine. Well, I believe I kind of reverse engineered the whole process in terms of what deal sources are usually doing, right? So again, I'm starting with the buyer, and then I'm going to get the deals. So it just makes it a lot easier. But we're going to get into that. Don't let me go off track too much, Ravi. But brilliant, Ravi. That, like I said, very, very good start. And I think I'm definitely going to be able to help you out. In terms of the 90-day rule, I wouldn't worry too much about that, mate. Like I always say to people, if you're covering London and you are speaking with investors that are looking for deals in London, it's not your responsibility to make them comfortable or educate them on the 90-day rule. If they're covering London, they should have already educated themselves on things like that when it comes to certain cities, right? So they should be well aware of the 90-day rule. And most investors will be, to be honest. I haven't really come across many investors that are covering London that are not aware of the 90-day rule and are not sure how they're going to manage it. So that's really for them to worry about. Us as deal sources, our job is we've got the client, they say they want deals in London, we're just going to find them the deals in London. They can handle, the that part of things, because that kind of is outside of our job, outside of our domain. But yeah, we'll cover it in a lot more detail as we work our way through, Ravi. I hope that makes sense. And Trust said, looking to scale up to 10K per month, then expand to my own rent to rent with enough capital. Brilliant. So I'm actually going to cover, there's a couple of the people in the examples that I'm going to show you guys today that have done exactly that. We've got a lot of guys in the group that have done it, but there's a few, one or two in the examples I show you that have started this sourcing business since joining the program, started selling deals, absolutely smashing it, putting that money aside, and they've now started to grow their own portfolio of rent-to-rent deals. And it's just crazy because they started from scratch, and they've literally used that money that they've made from selling these deals to now buy their own deals, invest in their own deals. And you can start all of this from scratch, right? You're not paying anything to find the investors or to find the deals, but you're able to make the money in the middle if you sell the deal on, or hold that deal and make that cash flow monthly. So yeah, it is very, very powerful once you know exactly what you're doing. And we're going to go over that. Fatu said, I haven't put a limit on my potential owing, but at least £10,000 for me to leave my job and focus full-time on my property business. Okay. And honestly, that's very realistic, Fatu. Very, very realistic. And as we go through, you'll start to see it for yourself. This is why I love social proof, and I love showing things in real time, because at the end of the day, I can tell you guys how much this works till the cows come home. You're not going to believe me until you see some real people doing it that are not me. So as we work our way through, you're going to see loads of those kind of examples, and you'll see, Fatu, that these people are no smarter or better than you. So if they can do it, you can do it, right? And what I'm going to give you today will allow you to go away and start doing that pretty much straight away. Okay, great. All right, guys, some good answers there. Let's keep moving. I don't want to hold you for too long tonight. And usually when I do masterclasses, they end up going on for hours. And I, although it probably will be a couple of hours, I don't want to stretch it too much for you. Okay. Okay, so today I want to break down the strategy in as much detail as possible so you can leave this call knowing exactly what to do next. As I said, please note, this is the exact same strategy that my clients are using to be paid £1,500 for a co-source deal, to £3,000 for a direct deal per rent to rent within a matter of days right now. So this isn't what I'm going to go through with you today isn't something different to what the guys are doing, right? I'm giving you exactly what they're doing, and it's happening now. This isn't something that we was doing 10 years ago, right? Although I started over 10 years ago, this is still happening now. Like I said, the examples I'm going to show you are from like a couple of days ago, last week, last month, the month before. This is very, very recent. This is still happening till today. So these are very, very real methods that I'm going to give you that if you take action on them, you will definitely get results if you're consistent. Okay, so here's a few examples. You guys might have seen, I just put out a case study video where I spoke about my client, Denise. So Denise sold her first deal to an investor that she found in a free Facebook group within 3 days and made £3,000. You can see here, this was literally about 4 or 5 weeks ago. And yeah, you can see here where Denise said, you know, 3K in the bag. She just this is her post inside the program group. So 3K in the bag in 3 days. First deal done and dusted in 72 hours. She only joined the program about 3 weeks before this sale, right? So to go from zero to selling a deal and making £3,000 in 3 weeks, and you know, within the space of 3 weeks, but the actual deal itself being transacted within 72 hours is absolutely crazy when you really actually think about it. And she found that investor in a free Facebook group. You can see here, this is where she was paid. This is her company, DPW Property Group. My client, Mahen, is another one. Again, very recently, this was only in August, so last month. My client, Mahen, sold his first deal to an investor that he found in a free Facebook group within 3 weeks of joining the program. And he also made £3,000. You can see here, he says, morning, Gary, investor has paid. First milestone is achieved. It took 3 weeks, but it should have been sooner. And the reason why he's saying it should have been sooner is because that sale was actually, it was a little bit more tricky than usual. So it actually took a little longer than it probably should have. Dane said, can't see your screen, only the whiteboard. Yeah, this is, I'm only showing the whiteboard at the moment, Dane. So you should right now see Mahen up on the screen. You should be seeing the examples. Okay, yeah. So I'm not showing, there's no other screen open at the moment. It's just the whiteboard. So you can see Mahen? Can you guys see the writing on the board? Really? 1 second, let's see. Just give me 1 second, guys. You should be able to see it. Okay, Fatu can. Some of you can, some of you can't. I don't know why. That's very strange. 1 second, let me just see. Just give me a sign. Just write in the chat and just let me know whether you can see the board or if you can't, guys, just so I can see how many of you can and how many can't. Okay. Dane said it's fine. I can hear you though. No, I really need you guys to see the board because there's a presentation. You should be seeing stuff. So I'm not sure why Fatu can see it and the rest of you can't. That's really weird. Let's see. What I'll do is I'm gonna close the whiteboard. Sorry about this, guys. Appreciate your patience. I'll close the whiteboard and then I'll open it back up. And hopefully that should be okay. Let's see. I'm gonna close it and open it back up. Give me 2 seconds. And we'll pick up from exactly where we left off. Can you see it now? You can see it now, Dane? Let me know, guys. Can you all see it now? Just write in the chat and let me know. Okay, perfect. Brilliant. Okay, hopefully it's not going to be temperamental as we work our way through. Let me just go back up. So where was we? I'm going to move through this quickly so we can get to the actual steps. So as I was saying, Mahen sold his first deal to an investor that he found in a free Facebook group within 3 weeks of joining the program and made £3,000. Everyone can see Mahen on the screen. Can you see this part of the presentation? Just give me a yes if you can see Mahen on the screen. You can see my writing and the red box around his writing. Just write yes in the chat if you can see that. Yeah, everyone can see that. Okay, perfect. All right, brilliant. I just want to make sure it's nice and clear. I don't want you guys to miss anything. Okay, so that was Mahen. We also had Milani. He sold a rent-to-rent deal to an investor he found in a free Facebook group within 1 week, made £2,500. You can see Milani here. He posted when he was paid. He said, I could not have done this without you. And, you know, to be honest, I love hearing things like that because honestly, the whole point of me working with people is for them to get results. There's no benefit for me if you work with me and you don't get a result. So I love seeing things like that. And we did work really hard to make sure that he got that deal across the line within 7 days, which was crazy. My clients, Kent and Karan, who co-sourced 4 deals in one go, which made them £10,000 in less than 2 weeks. They found the investor in a free Facebook group and the landlord in a free WhatsApp group. So again, every single one of these people that I'm showing you are implementing exactly what I'm about to walk you through, right? The exact strategy I'm about to break down for you. So you can see here, Kent and Karan. So they're actually, just to be clear, they are both mentees in the program. Kent had the deals. He found this landlord in a landlord WhatsApp group that he just happens to be part of, and just was being proactive, as I always encourage the guys to be, and ended up speaking with a landlord. And that landlord just happened to have 4 HMOs that they were, there was, I think one was sitting empty, one was about to be empty. So basically, Kent just worked his magic, went through the process as I showed the guys how to do, secured that landlord, built the rapport, built the relationship, and was given those properties pretty much straight away. Off the back of that, because he had already sold some deals with Karan, who's, as I said, is another mentee in the program, he reached out to him and said, look, I've got these deals. I'm going to send them to my investors, but you can also send them to yours because they cover the same area. And Karan just happened to have one investor that was ready to take all 4. He had the capacity to take all 4 deals in one go. So you can see here, Karan posted, deal sold. Kent and I sold another deal together, received partial sourcing fee for 4 HMO deals. So you can see here, they were paid £7,400 or £7,500 initially, and then they were paid the remaining £2,500 after they were paid together. You can see here, I was kind of following up with them just to make sure. I said 7,500 is partial payment, ? There's more coming, ? And they both said yes. And not too long after that, I believe only a few days after, we got the confirmation that they were paid the rest. So 10K, less than 2 weeks, absolutely crazy. Because they co-sourced, they split it down the middle, so they both made £5,000, and that's on one deal. I mean, I know it's 4 deals altogether, but it's one sale essentially. So that doesn't even account for the rest of the deals that they were selling throughout the rest of that month, right? So absolutely crushed it. My client Charlie also sold his first rent-to-rent deal to an investor he found in a free Facebook group within 4 weeks of joining the program, and is now hitting those 10K months, similar to the other guys, with ease. You can see here where Charlie spoke about getting his first deal wrapped up. This was actually when we had a WhatsApp group for the program. The program's posted on a completely different platform now, but in the beginning it was on a WhatsApp group, and Charlie gave us his update to say, first deal wrapped up, just finished his 4th week, pretty good. Lots of help of you, which is always great to see. And it was only maybe a year later, because I think Charlie actually did join in 2021, the first year I launched the program. A year later, just in passing as he was selling another deal, he mentioned that 10K months are basically normal now, right? So he sold another deal, and I said, look, that's got to be 10K this month, surely. He said, yes, mate, normal month, to be honest. I've sold 4 in the past 7 days. And like I mentioned to you guys earlier, we're selling every single deal for at least £1,500 up until 3K. The £1,500 fee is when you're sourcing, when you're co-sourcing. So and for those of you who have no idea what I'm talking about when I say co-sourcing, it's 2 sourcers working together. One's got the buyer, one's got the deal or the deals. And when that deal sells, you split the fee down the middle. We are paid £3,000 per rent-to-rent deal. So both parties walk away with £1,500, which is very good, considering how quick these deals are selling. Literally, you can be paid that amount in days, no exaggeration. As you just saw, Denise done 3K in 3 days. So that just tells you. So my client Miriam is another one. Miriam absolutely smashed it. I could tell you loads of stories about Miriam and the results she's got, but just as an example, she was one of the first to have a £10,000 week in the program. Absolutely smashing it. The investor that she sold those deals to was found in a free Facebook group. And I know I keep stressing this free Facebook group part, but it's very important that you really take that in and really just think about how valuable that is. Once you understand how to navigate those groups, get investors like this on your side and start selling them deals, you are literally creating money from thin air. You're not paying to get the deals. You're not paying to get the investors. You're not even having to physically be there when these deals are happening. So pretty much just from conversations and a couple of emails and maybe text messages and WhatsApps, you are creating £3,000 out of thin air. And I know that probably sounds a little bit like cliche or a little bit cheesy, but I don't mean it to come across like that. That's just genuinely what's happening, right? So yeah, Miriam, just another example. And she spoke about here, look, she probably could have actually sold more deals. My phone has really blown up. WhatsApp, at least 100 calls and missed calls this week. It's been manic. If I had a better system and at least one other person working with me, it could have been more, but I'm so grateful. And actually, it's funny because me and Miriam was just on one of the support calls yesterday speaking about her systems that she's got in place now and VAs and things like that, because she's selling a lot of deals and she's getting a lot of leads and a lot of business coming her way. She's using this strategy, still not paying for ads, still not having to do anything outside of this, still not having to go on other platforms, just pretty much building this just using these free Facebook groups with what I'm showing you. Yeah. Also got my client Zara, lovely lady Zara, sold 6 deals in 1 month. She actually won a few of the competitions in the group for selling the most deals. She made 10K this month, and you can see here she got paid for deal number 5, and then she got paid. It was like literally about 24 hours later, another deal sold, and then a few days later she was paid on that one as well. So she walked away with just over 10K that month. She found all of those buyers in a free Facebook group. My clients Rihanna and Nath, they sold 5 rent-to-rent deals that made them 12K within their first 2 months of working with me. They also found their investors in the free Facebook groups. You can see here, hey guys, I sold 2 deals this week and 3 last month. Two deals were co-sourced. So like I said to you, £1,500 per co-source deal. 2 of those is 3K. And then we're selling the direct deals for £3,000 each. So she had another 3, sorry, that sold. So that was 9. Put that together, that was 12K that they made 2 months into working with me, which is crazy. Absolutely crazy. My client Tarun is another one, sold 2 rent-to-rent deals within 4 days and made £4,000, pretty much £1,000 a day. When you really think about it. He also found those investors in free Facebook groups, right? And again, this is Tarun posting in the group. I sold 1 deal last week, Friday, 2nd deal today. 1 was co-sourced and the 2nd was my own. So you can just see here, I'm confirming with him, was he paid the 1,500 for the co-sourced and the £3,000 for the direct deal? And he said, no, he done 1,500 for the co-sourced and 2,500 for the direct deal because he was negotiating with that investor and the investor was buying more deals from him. And I know Tarun has sold more deals since then. I would imagine maybe this is the person that's taken a couple of those deals from him as well. So it made sense for him to give him a little bit of a discount. We also have Harry. And it only took Harry about 2 hours to sell a rent-to-rent deal that made him £3,000. Absolutely crazy. He found that investor in a free Facebook group after joining the program, sold multiple deals to that investor, and just because of how strong that relationship had become during those sales, he was more than happy to just take a deal off of Harry's hands without even going and viewing it. Literally, as you can see here, just sold a deal within 2 hours of receiving it. Investor has bought a 3 from me already, so was comfortable proceeding remotely. Surely that's a record. And it actually was a record. I don't think anyone in the program has sold a deal that quickly. It's ridiculous. 2 hours after receiving the deal, he was paid out on it. The investor literally paid him the fee 2 hours after without viewing it. So again, it just shows you how powerful these relationships are when you put them in place properly. What's this? I don't know what that is there. Okay, we also had my client Samir, and don't worry, guys, there's only about 1 more left, and we're going to get into it. But I just want you to see this because, like I said, I can sit here and tell you, till I'm blue in the face how much this works and give you the strategy. But I want you to see that there's real people doing it. They're actually making this money. They're using this strategy. It's working for them. They're no smarter or better than you. They're not doing anything, outlandish. They're just following the steps. So it's very important that you see this. So Samir is another client, another member of the program, has sold multiple deals since working with me for £3,000 each. He found all of those investors in free Facebook groups. You can see here, this was just after him selling another deal I posted in the group, and he commented underneath saying, "Hi Gary, I sold multiple deals using your system. I can't thank you enough, mate." And I know he's still smashing it till this day. It's crazy. This strategy is so powerful, guys. The chat has gone a little bit quiet, so I just want to make sure that you're still hearing me, still can see the whiteboard. Let's just get some yeses in the chat. If you can hear me, you can see the whiteboard still, please write yes in the chat. Perfect, brilliant. Okay, I just want to make sure everything's still clear. So I think you get the picture, right? I think you clearly can see that this is real, that these are real people. By the way, all of these people are on Facebook because we only use Facebook for this strategy. So, you know, you can go and speak with them or go and have a look at their page or reach out to them. They're all real people. And these are all real results. You know, the majority of people who sell a deal in our program sells that first deal within 4 to 5 weeks. But as you can see, of late, we've been smashing that record. People are selling deals in their first 2 weeks, their first week, you know, 3 weeks. So yeah, in fact, it shows that actually the strategy is more powerful now than it probably was before, for whatever reason. So this is real. Okay, so I think you guys get the picture. Let's keep it moving. So let's take a quick look at the funnel we're using to get these results. So when I say funnel, for those who don't know what I mean by funnel, I'm going to show you, and I'm just making sure that you can see it on my screen, zooming out a little bit. So I'm going to show you the process, or in fact, let me do it in the right order. I'm going to show you the foundations, because the foundations need to be laid first, and then the process that follows after the foundations are laid. Can everybody see this diagram on the screen, or do I need to zoom in a little bit more? Just give me a yes if you can see it clear. You can see the whole thing. Or if you need me to zoom in slightly. I'll move it around anyway, just to make sure. So we'll start off with the foundations. And again, for those of you who are on my Facebook, or if you've been in the free deal sourcing community on School for a little while, you would have seen the video I put out where it was called the 6 foundations, where I basically broke down some of these foundations on that video and explained why they are so important. Again, like with every business, you need to have certain things in place for to kind of make the cogs turn, right? And I think the reason why a lot of people who are trying to deal source are struggling is because they don't have all of those foundations laid. I'll use Ravi as an example, and not to put Ravi on the hot seat or put him on the spot. There's nothing, it's not anything personal to Ravi, because this is what a lot of people are doing. Ravi is following the process to the T, in the sense that he's registered his company, he's compliant, he's doing everything that most deal sourcers would do to get yourself up and running. But you notice he mentioned himself that he still needs to build an investor list. So that says that part of his foundations is missing. But once he lays that part of the foundation, it will all come together, right? So I just want to kind of run through what those foundations are, and then I'll run through the process, and then I'm actually going to run through a little bit more detail about each one of those foundations. So just to make sure everyone can still see the board, if anyone can't see it, please just leave a comment and I'll be able to just check it out for you quickly. But I'm going to assume everyone can still see. So we'll start with the first one. The first foundation, of course, is the free Facebook groups. And everybody who speaks to me about deal sourcing knows this is something that I swear by, right? These free Facebook groups are absolute gold mines once you understand how to navigate them properly, right? So we want to be getting ourselves into the free Facebook groups that are specifically created for rent to rent, right? So there's a lot of property groups, just kind of like general property groups, which you can also join. But what I would prefer for you to do, and what's going to give you the best results, is if you specifically join all of the rent to rent groups on Facebook. And just to put it into context, I'm in over 100 rent to rent groups on Facebook, over, right? So just to kind of even just get an idea of where everyone else is at with it, just if you can just write the number of Facebook groups you're in currently, rent to rent Facebook groups specifically on Facebook. Just write it in the comment for me, guys, just in the chat, just so I've got an idea. Some of you might be in a similar amount as me, some might be less. Okay, Sam's in 20. That's not actually too bad, Sam, to be fair. But we need to get you, definitely need to get you into more. Anybody else? Talk to me, guys. There is 12 of you on. How many Facebook groups, rent to rent Facebook groups specifically, are you in currently? And what I'm going to do is further down as we go through, I'm going to just give you the steps to actually join more groups, just in case you don't know how. So Brenda's in more than 10 for sure. Okay, good. More than 10 is good. Talk to me, guys. Who's in 20? Who's in 50? Is anyone in 100? Dane's in 26. That's not bad. JM, just says JM. Apologies. It doesn't say your full name. It just says JM, but JM's in 15. Again, not bad at all. Fatu's in 5. Okay. So everyone's in kind of like a similar amount. I don't think anybody's in like more than 50 groups, it looks like. Maybe not even more than 30. So, and that shows you, okay? So as I was saying, that's a part of your foundation. If you're not in enough Facebook groups, you are missing out on so many opportunities. And I'm going to go through what those opportunities are a little bit further, but just understand that everybody that you need to be speaking to and connecting with in this business as a rent to rent deal sourcer is in those free Facebook groups, literally. And I'm going to show you in a second, but just keep that in mind. So first things first, for those of you who are making notes, if you are in less than 50, I'm going to say less than 50. I'm not going to expect you to be in 100 like myself. I've been in a business a long time, so it makes sense. But if you're in less than 50 rent to rent Facebook groups, make a note. You definitely need to join more and just leave some space for the steps that I'm going to show you in a second. So that's the first foundation that you need to lay. Second foundation is high demand areas, right? As in, most deal sources are trying to do a deal anywhere, literally. And I'm contacted by deal sources every day. If I was to show you my inbox, you probably wouldn't believe it. People asking questions about this and that, and what would you do in this situation, and how do I go about that? And one of the things that I always notice when I speak to deal sources and I just like ask a few questions to get an idea of where they are with things, I notice most people aren't focused on specific areas. And that's a big, big flaw, because just imagine how difficult it is to build anything solid if you're trying to cover every city in the country. And you're one person, by the way, right? So it'd be a little bit different if you've got a big team and, that's something you can manage. And even then, it would be pretty difficult to actually get something solid built in each city. But still, most deal sources are attempting to do it for some strange reason. So for me, the next most important foundation that needs to be laid after you've got yourself in the Facebook group so that you've got access to all of this data and all of these people is to make sure that you're in the high demand areas. And I'm going to I'll give you the steps to do that in a second. But basically, you're going to be able to utilize those free Facebook groups to your advantage. And it's going to show you in real time which areas you should be focusing on and which ones you should maybe avoid. Because sometimes what people do is they pick the area they're going to cover just based on where they live or just areas that they know of, right? And you don't want to base it on that, because the bottom line is if there's no demand there, when you're attempting to get deals, it's going to be very difficult for you to sell them because there's not enough people to sell them to, right? So it's not about how close it is to where you live. Don't think about the logistics. If you remember what I said at the start, this is going to be operated 100% remotely. All of those examples of the sales that I just showed you was all done remotely. None of those guys went to the property. They didn't have to go and meet anyone or travel anywhere. So you don't need to worry about how far the area is to where you live. Okay, so again, something very important to keep in mind. Yeah. So second, like I said, the second foundation that's really important to lay is the high demand areas, which you're going to use the Facebook groups to find. The third foundation is your qualified investor list. And you guys already heard me say earlier, this is the backbone of your business, without a shadow of a doubt. This is what makes the biggest difference. I see it firsthand, day in, day out. I see the difference between my clients and my mentees that have solid investor lists, how quickly they sell a deal, how someone like Harry, for example, You see how quickly Harry would sell a deal in comparison to someone who doesn't have an investor list. They will struggle. They will have to scramble to try and attract somebody that will take this deal on. And in the process of doing that, they have to deal with so many tire kickers and filter through so many people that actually by the time they do maybe stumble, get round to speaking to the serious investor, that landlord might have lost patience, right? So having that qualified investor list up front, you can see. And by the way, the way this is written out is in order. So this is the order you should be doing it in. So it's Facebook groups first. So you shouldn't be calling landlords, calling agents, and you haven't got yourself in all the Facebook groups. You haven't picked your areas. You haven't started speaking to investors, right? Or you shouldn't be speaking to investors if you haven't even picked your areas, right? So everything has to be done in order for it to all make sense and for it to all align. So the qualified investor list, very important. I gave you guys the example earlier of why it's so important. Just being able to go directly to investors that you already know are waiting for these types of deals, in comparison to speaking to agents, landlords, whoever it is, and knowing that actually you haven't got anyone, right? So very important that we get that done up front. Again, I'm going to walk you through how to do that in a second. Also, something to keep in mind is that these investors will sit on your list forever, by the way. So you can find an investor today, and let's just say for whatever reason, you don't send that investor a deal for a few months, right? For whatever reason, you just don't send him a deal. When you call that investor in a few months to catch up, he's not going to say, Gary, get me off your list. I don't want to speak to you anymore. You haven't sent me a deal in a long time. I'm done. I don't want to speak to you anymore. It just doesn't work that way. An investor isn't sitting waiting for anything from you, to be honest, right? So this is why the list is more valuable, because these are people that are going to stay with you for years and years to come. They're going to buy deal after deal. We've got guys in the group that have sold so many deals to some of the same investors over and over again. I've done the same thing as well over the years, right? So there's value in that. Whereas you get a landlord on board, which is great, but if you're not able to proceed with what you propose to that landlord quick enough, you lose that deal and you lose that relationship. And let's just say you are able to proceed quick enough and get that deal sold. If this is a landlord that only has one property, that's it. You've got what you can out of that relationship. Unless they buy another property and decide to do the same thing again, you're probably never going to hear from them ever again. That relationship's done, right? So the value is in having an investor list built. These are your clients. These are the people that are going to spend £3,000 with you, over and over and over again. And this is where you have to put your focus before you start trying to secure deals. So, as I said, this is the third foundation, but for me, it is the backbone of the business. And actually, it's quite ironic that it sits right in the middle of the five, right? So next is the network. So that's your network of co-sourcers and estate agents or letting agents. Again, very, very important. We'll go through why and how to find them. But again, if you've got co-sourcers sending you deals that are already packaged, so they've already spoke with the landlord, they've already dealt with the agent, or they've already gone back and forth and negotiated, they've done the part that takes the longest when it comes to getting deals from landlords. By the time this deal has come to you, it's packaged, it's ready. All you need to do is present it to this investor list that you've built. So the value of having co-sourcers on your side that are happy to send you deals is priceless, honestly. And like I said, we have a ridiculous amount of examples of people co-sourcing together within the group or with people outside of the group, and that may, getting their first couple of sales that way because it happens so quickly. So very important. Again, this is in order, guys. So you notice I've put this part before you start speaking to landlords or developers or even agents. I've even put co-sources before agents, right? And do it in that order, because the co-sources, when you work with the co-sources, that process is literally halved in terms of time, right? Like I said, they've done the hard work. When you work with the agents, it is still a bit quicker than when you're trying to get the deals from the landlords, because the agent does that work for you. They speak with the landlord and find out whether they're open to what we're proposing. But there's still a little bit of back and forth you have to do with the agent. You have to put forward the proposal, and everything has to still be communicated to the landlord. So there's still a bit of back and forth. With the co-sourcer, we have none of that. The deal's ready, it's packaged, just send it to your list. Of course, you do your checks, of course. Do your checks to make sure everything stacks up. But once that's done and you're happy with it, it goes straight to the list, and that's it. And we can have that deal done and dusted within days, literally. Right? So that's the co-sourcers. Next would, of course, be the agents as part of the network as well. Again, I think everybody's clear on why that's valuable. Agents are in the business of working with landlords. They advertise for landlords. If it's a local agent, which is what we target specifically, they have relationships with the big landlords in the area. Landlords in the area will just walk into their office and just give them their keys. I was an estate agent, by the way, for those of you who don't know my backstory, for about 2 years. So I've seen it firsthand. I never dealt with the rental side. I was in the sales office, but they're next door to each other. So I literally saw how landlords would just literally walk in and be like, "Hi, guy, you're the closest one. The property's on such and such road. Here's the keys. Let me know, when you're ready." And it's like they're literally just chucking their properties at them, right? Of course, that's if they've got a good reputation, etc. But my point is, you having that relationship with them becomes valuable because, one, they can provide those leads for you, because not every landlord that comes on an agent's books is going to be open to what we're proposing. But because they're happy to have that conversation with them, they're more likely to get that landlord to say yes than we are, because there's already that element of trust. Like I said, just by them being a local agent or them having multiple properties on the market already in the area, there's an element of trust there. So you want to have that relationship and leverage it as much as possible. So that's the network. That's co-sourcers and agents. Is everybody still following me? Is everyone still clear? Is the screen still okay? Can everyone still hear me okay? Just let me know in the chat. Just give me a yes if everything's okay. Perfect, Dane. And by the way, I can see that there's some questions. I'm going to come back to them. Don't you worry. If you've asked any questions, I'm going to revisit them. We'll do a little Q&A at the end. Don't you worry. Okay, good. Everyone can still hear me. Perfect. Okay, so that's the network. So co-sourcers and agents. Next, of course, is landlords and developers. So again, you notice this is the last foundation that you're laying, right? And it just goes back to what I said. Of course, we need deals. And of course, we want to work directly with landlords where we can, or agents where we can, developers where we can. But it is a longer process. So that's why I've put it at the end. Although you do actually make more money from a deal that you secure directly from a landlord if you're selling it to your investor, rather than, of course, a deal from a co-sourcer that you're selling to your investor, because then you're splitting the fee. If it's direct to the landlord or the developer, you get the full fee. So that's the only difference, really. But it's just the turnaround time, right? And it's just getting that momentum. If you can get a couple of co-source deals under your belt, get them sold, bank that money very quickly because of how quick that process is, it's going to help you gain momentum and get things started. And then you can start focusing on getting those deals directly from landlords as well, whilst your agents and your co-sources are sending you deals to sell. So you've got a bit of a balance then. It's not just, if I don't get a deal from a landlord, I'm not going to make any money. You've got deals coming from co-sources and agents which are selling and making money whilst you're trying to secure the ones from the landlord. Is everyone clear on that? Is everyone clear on the foundations? Was there anything about the foundations that anyone didn't understand that you need me to go back and quickly cover? Just give me a yes if you're clear on the foundations, you understand why it's in that order. Just give me a yes in the chat, guys. Dane said yes, brilliant. Okay, JM. Okay, perfect. All right. Let's just quickly see if I missed any questions, and then I'll continue and I'll go over the process. So, where are we? Okay, Ravi said, I think about 30 just because I'm halfway through the mastermind video of yours. Literally just, okay, perfect. Okay. Sam said, can you not find a qualified investor and find them a deal in their area? You can, but just think about it. It's very risky trying to serve one investor. That's the problem. Because you find that one investor, and that might be a good investor. He might genuinely be ready to take on deals and kind of like when you qualify him, he answers all the questions the way you'd like him to. But if he, I'll give you two scenarios. First scenario, you secure some deals, you send them to him. For whatever reason, they do not tick the boxes. What do you have to do? You have to go and find more buyers anyway, don't you? Or you lose the deal. So it makes more sense to actually just find the buyers in the first place, have a list of buyers to send that deal to rather than just the one person, right? So that's the first scenario. You send it to him, he's not interested. So you're back to square one. The second scenario is you send him a deal, he takes that deal or he takes a couple of deals, and now you're stuck because he's not going to be able to take on another bunch of deals for maybe a couple of months, depending on what his capacity is, right? So now again, you're going to have to go and find more buyers anyway. So my whole thing is build that list of investors first. So you've got that foundation there. I actually say to aim for about 10 qualified investors before you even start looking at deals. Yeah, maybe you can test the list as you're building it, but really in your mind, you should be aiming for about 10 because it just significantly increases your chances of selling a deal every time you send it to the list. If I build a list of investors in London, all looking for rent to rent deals, anytime, and I've got 10 of them, let's say 10 qualified, I've spoken with them on the phone, they are ready to go, they're raring to go, they're even chasing me up asking, you know, um chasing me up asking, oh, 1 second, sorry, one of you guys are changing the presentation. Please guys, try not to play with the screen. I don't know how you've even done that. But yeah, as I was saying, if I've only got one person to serve, it's very risky, right? I need a list of clients to serve so that when I get a deal, I chuck it into that pool of investors in London, for example, my 10, 15 qualified investors. I chuck that deal in there, I know there's going to be a few people who are interested. And even if they aren't interested, I know that I can get on the phone because I've built that relationship with them now. Remember, this conversation with them about a deal I'm sending them isn't the first conversation. The first conversation was when I qualified them. So me following up about a deal is actually a much smoother conversation. We'll go into that a little bit later. But just in short, it's a lot easier for me to do it that way. Yeah. So I hope that makes sense, Sam. So basically, like I said, nothing wrong with finding a qualified investor and then just going finding them a deal, but you'll get a much better results if you focused on trying to serve a list rather than the one. Yeah. Let me know if that makes sense, Sam. I hope that answers your question. Okay, Dane said, why does the acronym heads of terms signed, or what does the acronym HOTs signed mean? That's heads of terms, Dane. So the heads of terms is that we're going to go into that in a second, but the heads of terms is the document that the landlord signs to confirm they're happy with what you've proposed. It's not a legally binding document. They're not obligated to do anything until they've signed the final lease agreement, but it just kind of like outlines what's been discussed, what we proposed, and them saying, yes, I'm happy to do it. Yeah. So it's called heads of terms. Brenda said, should you cluster your investors into areas of interest? Most definitely, 100%. So I suggest, and we're going to go into this in a second. I'm going to I know I'm just giving you kind of like a diagram of it now, but I'm actually going to break it down for you in a second, just below. But just to answer your question, Brenda, I suggest having 3 areas maximum. So 1 to 3 areas maximum. There's nothing wrong with just focusing on one area. I've got guys in my program that are focusing on one area and absolutely crushing it, dominating that area, selling 4, 5, 6 deals a month, making £10,000 plus on one area. Whereas there's other people who are, like I said earlier, covering tons of areas and struggling to maybe sell 1 deal a month, right? But because we're focused and we're building those lists based on specific criteria, as you said, areas of interest, it makes it a lot easier for us to sell a deal. Because again, like I said, if I've got a list in London, when I get a deal in London, I just chuck it in that pool of investors and someone buys. If I've got a list in Nottingham and I get a deal in Nottingham, I chuck it in that list of Nottingham investors, qualified Nottingham investors, and somebody buys. So yeah, you definitely break it down in areas to answer your question, Brenda. I hope that makes sense. Let me know if you're unsure about anything. Sam said, I tried to reach out to investors via Facebook Messenger, but I got no replies at all. And I have reached out to around 50. Am I doing something wrong? I feel because they are not my friends, they don't see my message. So we're going to go into that in a bit more detail in a second. But to answer your question, first things first, 50 messages is not enough. Just to put it into context, I made a video the other day where I found 50 investors in 15 minutes. So that 50 investors that you've reached out to is 15 minutes if you look at it that way. So you need to be messaging more people. In some of these Facebook groups, there are thousands of people. So out of thousands, you don't want to just stop at sending 50 messages. You want to be messaging every single investor that you find in the area that you're covering. And the worst you're going to hear is no. So just fire them out. Be aggressive. That's what I encourage the guys to do. Be aggressive with your messages. Just send them out. Don't try and overthink it. Don't try and guess who will be interested and who wouldn't. If they've left a comment underneath, and I'm kind of going too far forward now, but just whilst we're here, if they've left a comment underneath a deal, a rent-to-rent deal in the area you're covering, they must get a message. Because the worst they're going to say is, no, I'm not looking anymore. Right? So 50 is not enough. That's the first thing. The second thing is, how are you reaching out to them, Sam? Are you sending written messages or are you sending voice notes? Because that is another thing that's very, very important. And of course, I'll go into the details about that probably a little bit further down, but it makes a big difference. Big difference. Written messages. Okay, so that needs to change as well. Get comfortable with sending voice notes. And when I say voice notes, I don't mean, it doesn't have to be like a long voice note. You're not having to say too much. In fact, I just had to advise one of the guys in the program the other day when I was auditing his voice notes that actually he's saying too much in the voice note and kind of scaring people away. So you're only saying a few words. Like, it's just a quick message. For example, if you was an investor that I was reaching out to, I would shoot you in a voice note, Sam. I say, hey, Sam, how's it going? Hope you're well. Look, I just saw you left a comment on a rent-to-rent deal in Birmingham. You still looking for deals there at the moment? That's it. That's not even scripted, by the way. That's just literally just off the top of the head. Because I want to keep it as short and sweet as possible. So where the person I was speaking with and auditing their voice notes, where they were going wrong was they were trying to get like everything into that call. Into that voice note, sorry. So rather than just first finding out whether they're even still looking for deals like that, they're talking about the phone call that they want to get them on and the deals that they've got available now and, you know, what deals they've got coming. And like the voice note's too long. This person doesn't know us yet. Remember, we're complete strangers at first. So when we're sending that initial voice note, we're keeping it short and sweet, nice and positive, and the tone needs to be upbeat because we're trying to break the ice. We're trying to make them feel comfortable with even speaking with us first, right? We're not trying to sell them anything on that first voice note. We're not even, like I said, not even trying to give them too much information straight away. We're just trying to find out, are you even still looking for what I saw you was looking for in that comment section? That's it. Yeah? Does that make sense, Sam? Let me know. And good question. Would you do a video? You can do a video. I was just speaking about Denise, my client Denise, who the example I showed you guys with the lady who sold sold a deal in 3 days. When she joined the program, I had just put out a post in the group about putting together a creative initial communication. So whether it's voice notes or a video, I was saying that you need to do things like that. You need to step outside the box because you have to understand that these investors' inboxes are filled to the brim with written messages. So if you're just going to send them another written message, you're just falling within the noise. You just look like another saucer. But if you send a voice note, you look a little bit different because people aren't usually sending voice notes. They're uncomfortable with sending voice notes. And actually, when an investor sees a voice note in their inbox, they're more intrigued to listen and hear what you're saying rather than if you sent them a written message, they can kind of read it without even opening it and things like that. Whereas if it's a voice note, you're like, oh, what's this person said? I don't normally get voice notes. Let me listen. And the minute they hear your voice, right, unless you're saying, you have to be saying something wrong, right? But usually the minute they hear your voice, it's okay, it's a real person. This is a genuine person just trying to work with me. They're a deal sourcer. Automatically, the ice starts to break. The guard starts to come down a little bit. Yeah. So I would definitely suggest sending voice notes or videos. What Denise was doing, just to circle back to what I was saying, Denise just basically sent a video saying what I just said to you guys in that example. So rather than it being a voice note, she was recording herself saying it. Very quick video. And again, like I said, it was, hey, Sam, how's it going? Hope you're well. Well, actually, no, just to be clear, she didn't say a name in it because she recorded it once and then she was sending it to every investor. So it was just kind of like, hey, how's it going? Hope you're well. I just saw you left a comment on a rent-to-rent deal in Birmingham. Just checking to see whether you're still looking for deals like that at the moment. Done. That was it. Recorded it once. She sent me the video to see what I thought of it. I said, amazing. Start sending it out. And she just fired it out to every investor, every single one. And again, she was getting feedback from the investors saying, oh, that's different. I don't normally get people happy to show their face. But you don't realize that just doing something small like that puts you in such a good light in comparison to every other deal sourcer who's just spamming this investor's inbox with written messages, half of the time not even deals that they're even interested in, or even talking about things that they're interested in, right? So to answer your question, Sam, if you're open to doing videos, definitely, I give you the thumbs up and the green light. Definitely do that. Yeah. Okay, guys. Look, let me get back to this because I want to tackle the Q&A afterwards. I know sometimes I go a little bit off track and I just want to make sure everyone's clear on everything. So where was we? We went through the foundations. So now the process, of course. So now that you've laid the foundation, so you're in your Facebook groups. So if you're like me, you're in over 100 Facebook rent-to-rent Facebook groups specifically. So every time you even come into Facebook, your feed is just filled with new deals, investors commenting, co-sources, landlords in landlords groups, this, that. Like your Facebook just becomes a rent-to-rent frenzy almost, right? Which is of course good for you because you're trying to do that type of business. So you've got you're in your free Facebook groups, then you've used that group or those groups to figure out which areas you're going to focus on, right? So based on engagement, the amount of people amount of investors that are expressing interest in the deals, you'll be able to see it clear as day just from, the differences between each area. So you pick your area or your areas. And remember, I said there's nothing wrong with having just one area. And then next, you built your qualified investor list. And now you have 10, 15 investors looking for rent-to-rent deals specifically in one city. So now, all I need to focus on is finding deals in that city and sending it to this list, right? The next thing you did was you started to build a network of co-sourcers and agents to start feeding the list. Firstly, you built the co-sourcing network. So now what I get my guys to do is every Monday they have to contact everyone in their network, co-sourcer wise, whether it's a WhatsApp message, voice note, whether it's a video like we were just speaking with Sam, whether it's a phone call to everyone, whatever it is, a broadcast message. Some of the guys have their co-sourcers in their own little WhatsApp group. So whether it's just a message in the WhatsApp group, every Monday they have to touch base with their co-sourcers to see what deals they have available or what deals they have coming. And as small as that exercise sounds, you'd be so surprised how many more deals the guys sell just by doing that every week, because we're kept in the loop of what's available, right? So any new deals that their network has floating around, they need to be in the know because potentially they have someone on their list that will buy that deal. Yeah. So that's the co-sources. And then the agents, as we discussed, as you know, we need landlords, and these are the guys that are in probably the closest contact with the landlord. So we have to have those relationships. And then next, of course, going directly to motivated landlords and developers. So that's the foundations. Once you've got those things laid, you now need to start following the process. So the process goes as follows. First things first, we want to be securing deals from our network, of course, co-sources and agents. Of course, this is once we've kind of done them in order. But we're going to be securing deals from the network, and we're going to be securing deals from the motivated landlords and developers. I should really have done these two boxes a different color, but just for the sake of the video, just keep in mind that kind of these are kind of like, once they're laid, they sit separate from the rest, because we don't, although you can keep joining Facebook groups, you don't necessarily need to when you're in as many as me. And especially when you're in the big groups. Like one of the groups I'm going to show you in a second is like my favorite rent to rent group. It's got almost 40,000 people in it. Once you're in all of these groups, you don't need to necessarily keep joining more groups. Once you've picked your areas, you don't need to change your areas. You don't need to pick more areas. Once you've built your investor list, yeah, you can kind of still keep like revisiting the exercise and adding more. And actually, just organically, the list will continue to grow from the amount of messages you're sending anyway. You just heard me say to Sam, 50 messages isn't enough. We're kind of sending 50 messages a day in minutes, right? So not everybody sees that message straight away. Not everybody responds to the message straight away. But you've sent the message, it sits in the inbox until they open it. It's like you've planted a seed. So it just takes time. And actually, what we notice is over time, these people just keep opening the messages and coming back. You've got people messaging you that you reached out to 2 months ago, for example, right? So you don't necessarily need to put all your time and effort into building your list like you do at the start, is what I'm trying to say. Whereas these two separate parts, or these two separate foundations, they need to be constantly revisited, right? So that's why I would say they kind of stand separate. Yeah. Just 1 second. I think someone is saying they can't see the board again. Guys, just give me a signal. Just give me a yes if you can see the board, a no if you can't. I think Dane is saying he can't see it. Let me just double check for you, Dane. Can everybody see the board? Give me a yes in the chat if you can, or a no if you can't. And whilst you're doing that, I'll answer Ravi's question. Ravi said, it may be a silly question, but how are you supposed to remember so many investors' needs? Is it as simple as saving more details when saving as contact? For example, somebody more bespoke criteria. So you can either use a CRM if you'd like to, something like Podio, where when you're qualifying your investors, you're going to put all of that information into however you're storing their details. I suggest just having an Excel spreadsheet at first, because when it's just you starting off, you don't need a CRM. CRMs are for when you've got a team and everybody needs to kind of like plug into the business and know what's happening here and there. But when it's just you on your own, a simple Excel spreadsheet is fine. Like the template I've given the guys, they're all using it. And all these guys that you're seeing selling these deals, the hundreds of them, they've sold these deals and are continuing to sell these deals just with a template, an Excel spreadsheet, to be honest. Half of them, I would say more than half, aren't even using a CRM. So, but it's up to you, because I know some people like to use CRMs and kind of like have that sort of system in place. But to make it simple, because I'm a simple man, I like to do things, keep it really nice and easy to operate. You could just have a template, a spreadsheet, sorry, with separate tabs. So, for example, one tab is for all of your investors, and of course, you do your titles however and put the information however you want to. Another tab might be for all your co-sources. So again, all that information however you want to. Another tab for your agents, another tab for landlords, etc., etc. You know, another tab might be just for the deals that are in your pipeline at the moment. So, you know, and then you might have like a color code scheme. So what I'm saying is one simple spreadsheet for now, until you start hiring people, a VA or bringing other people on board, that will do for now, honestly, when it's just yourself. I hope that makes sense. Does that answer your question, Ravi? Let me know in the chat. Ravi said, I don't want to use the CRM or email list. I feel something like WhatsApp group would be. Yeah, and that's another. I mean, even if you have a WhatsApp group, you do really want to have a spreadsheet as well. You want to have their information noted. So I get what you mean. In terms of communicating with them, you want to have their phone number saved with their name, so you can send, you know, broadcast messages or individual messages or add them to a group. Of course, definitely you want to do that as well. And that's something that you can kind of just do simultaneously when, you know, I don't know, once or twice a week, you might just sit down on an evening and just start saving everybody's numbers, from your spreadsheet. However you like to do it. Some people do it as and when. Again, that's down to you. But the main thing is you save their numbers. My suggestion is also when you save their numbers, to make life easy for yourself, save them with a title. Save all of them with a title. So let's say, for example, Ravi, you're building a list in London, and I'm one of your investors that you've just found Facebook. We've spoken. You've qualified me. You want to add me to your list. You want to save my number as well. You should save my number as Gary Walker, London investor, or London rent to rent investor, something like that, right? And whatever that little title is after my name, everybody else on that list for that area should have the exact same title. So Dane Biggs should be Dane Biggs, London rent to rent investor. And then, everyone, I can't see the other name, Sam Mitchell, it would be Sam Mitchell, London rent to rent investor. Everyone would have the exact same title, so that when you do a broadcast message, for example, or even if you just want to message everyone individually on WhatsApp, all you would need to do is go in, type in the search box on WhatsApp, London rent to rent investor, or whatever the title is after the names, and it will just bring all of them up in the list for you on WhatsApp. And that's how the guys create their broadcast list really, really easy. Because again, some of the guys have got a lot of investors. They've saved a lot. So you can imagine that would be difficult to, like, when you want to send a message, have to go and find every name individually. So just make it easy for yourself by saving the title the same afterwards. Do the same thing for your co-sources as well. So every co-sourcer you have for London or whatever area, it would be Gary Walker, London co-sourcer. Sam Mitchell, London co-sourcer, and so on and so forth. Does that make sense? Okay. I hope that makes sense, Ravi. And Dane, just let me know if you can see the screen before I carry on. Okay, Lawrence said yes. Okay. Nothing yet. Is there anybody else struggling to see the screen, or is it just Dane? Just let me know in the chat, because it might be something just on your side, Dane. Anybody else struggling to see the screen, just let me know in the chat before I don't want to come out of the whiteboard and come back in again if it's just Dane, because it might be just something on your side. Let me know, guys. Just give me a yes or a no or a thumbs up or thumbs down in the chat to let me know if you can see the screen. Okay, I'm assuming Ravi can see it. Okay, because he's communicating about it. So can everybody see it? Let me know. Lawrence can see it. Anybody else? Sam can see it. Okay, yeah, Dane, I think it's something on your side. I'm going to keep going, but if you're still having any issues, maybe refresh it or come in and come back out. If you're having any issues, let me know. And yeah, maybe I have to start it again for yourself. But just remember, guys, this is being recorded as well. So if you miss it, I can always, when you watch the replay, you should be able to see everything nice and clear, because it's up on my side. So the recording should show everything nice and clear. Okay. Okay, cool. So the okay, what Ravi said, I can see up to 7 steps and a map in the middle. Okay, I'm not sure what you're seeing, Ravi. I haven't got down to 7 steps yet. Can everybody see the foundations and the process diagram that I've got in the middle? Oh, the 6 step. Okay, yeah, you're seeing the right thing. I think you're seeing the right thing. Okay. All right, perfect. Okay, so we've gone over the foundations. So back to the process. So the first thing we want to be doing is securing deals, as I said, from our network. So that would be our co-sourcers and our agents. So the way that that works is they would provide, guys, please, whoever is playing with the screen, please do not do that. I don't know how to stop you from playing with the screen. So please just try not to press anything on the screen. Okay. So the way that you would do that is they would send you the deal. So the co-sourcer would send you the deal. It's already packaged. It's ready to be sold. But you still want to do your DDs. You still want to do your due diligence. And that would just be quickly checking it over. If it was a rent to SA, we'd be checking on Airbnb or AirDNA, if you prefer to do it that way, making sure we're clear on the nightly rates and making sure the numbers stack up. If the numbers don't stack up, we go back to our co-sourcer and we just cross-reference everything. So I'm a big fan of communicating. Communication is key, right? And I see so many people lose deals because they don't communicate. For example, a co-sourcer sends them a deal, they don't believe the deal stacks up, so they don't go back to the co-sourcer, they just kind of walk away from the deal. Whereas I would go back to that co-sourcer and say, hey, Sam, for example, look, thanks for sending me that deal, really appreciate it. I think I probably will have someone that will take this deal on. It's in the area and I've got qualified investors there. It's just that when I've done my DDs, I wasn't seeing the same numbers as what you're finding. Can you do me a favor? Just send me some screenshots of the nightly rates you found or however you came to these numbers, just so that when I do start discussing it with my investors, I can present that to them as well. Yeah. And you'll be so surprised how many co-sources are like, okay, no problem, fine, if that makes it easier, because they're going to make the money too, you know. But because people don't communicate and have that kind of conversation, they just walk away. Okay, the deal doesn't stack, I'm leaving it. Walk away, leave the money on the table. Whereas we can have that conversation and then actually put it in front of the people whose opinion matters the most. And this is another thing where people kind of go wrong, right? They're making decisions based on their thoughts rather than what the client, who's the person who's actually going to take the property on, thinks, right? So, as I said, the co-sourcer will send you the deal. So we've got the property here. You do your due diligence. You make sure that the deal's been secured properly. So whether that's heads of terms signed or whatever paperwork they've used to get that deal agreed. So now we know that the deal's actually formally secured. It's ready to be sent out. Then we send it out to the qualified investor list. So you can see like the process is going back through the foundations that you've laid. So you've started at the network and you're going back to the qualified investors, right? We're going directly to them. We're not posting these deals in the groups and waiting for an investor, right? We're not posting them in WhatsApp groups and waiting for an investor. In fact, we're not doing any waiting at all. We're going directly to the qualified list because we know they're waiting for these deals. And we send those deals via WhatsApp, text, or email. So we send it in writing first. And of course, some of those investors will respond to the written message with the deal in it. But this is where a lot of deal sources lose out on money and we clean up and we take it. Because most deal sources will send the deal out to their list if they've even got a list. And if nobody on that list responds, they will assume that nobody's interested or nobody on my list is serious. Nobody wants this deal, right? But what they don't understand is that 9 times out of 10, none of those investors have even seen that message that you sent them with the deal in it. Or they've seen it and they're so busy that they couldn't even respond to you. I do live call out sessions to my mentees, investors. I do the follow-up calls for them every now and then. So we do workshops. So we do either calls to investors or agents or landlords. So talking about the investor call out session, for example, I will say to my one of the mentees, has anyone sent any deals out today? Someone may have sent out a deal. This is on the group call. And I say, okay, cool. What we're going to do is you send me all the numbers and tomorrow I'm going to do the follow-up calls for you on the live group call. So I'll get on the phone and I'll call all of those people and they'll see how I handle the calls, right? And people are always the guys that I'm doing it for the first time, they're always so shocked how many people answer the phone and say, oh, Gary, so sorry, I didn't even see that message with the deal in it. Or I saw it and I was so busy, I just didn't get a chance to respond. And they turn around and they're interested in the deal, right? So then when I come off those call out sessions and we have 4 or 5 people saying, yeah, send me more information, I'm interested, I'll go and view it if everything's, you know, looking how you're saying it's looking, and just positive responses to it. Bearing in mind, these are people that we sent the deal to yesterday or the day before and they never responded, right? When I do that and people see it, they are so shocked because they're mind blown. I thought my list was dead. I thought nobody was interested. Nobody was serious, right? But like I always say to the guys, if you're going to spend the time and effort building these lists, qualifying these investors, you have to leverage the list properly. And just sending the deal out in writing and waiting for everyone to respond to you as if they're just all sitting waiting for a message from us, that is the wrong way to go about it. You're going to sell way more deals by following up and being a hunter and being proactive. So again, sorry to go off on a tangent, but just to be clear on that. Is everyone clear on that, by the way? Just to make sure everyone heard what I said and you understand where I'm coming from. Just give me a yes or a thumbs up in the chat if you understand exactly what I'm talking about. And if that made sense in terms of why you're doing follow-up calls. Okay, brilliant. So you do your follow-up calls to your investors. And as I said, some of them may have already responded to the message. So you may have already started conversations with them, handle objections, get them more information if that's what they're asking for. And essentially, what comes off the back of either them responding or the people you get on the follow-up calls that are interested is they want to view the property. And the viewing process is essentially the final step before you find out whether you've sold a deal or not. Because I always say to people, especially coming from my estate agent background, I know firsthand how much of a key part of a sale the viewing is. I'm telling you now, most investors are not making that final decision until they put eyes on the property and they get a true appreciation for what they can do with it. Oh, this room's much bigger than I thought it was from the pictures. Or, oh, I can do this with the living room. I can put another bedroom in this, another bed in this bedroom. I can maximize the profits on this property. I never saw that from the pictures. It looked like a good deal, but now that I'm here in person, I can see a lot more that I can do with it. So viewings are super important. So before we get to booking them in for reviewing, they have to sign our NDA. And just to confirm what NDA stands for, as Dane did ask a very good question asking about the heads of terms, what that meant, because I'm sure there's probably other people on the call who are not too sure what it means as well. So the NDA stands for non-disclosure agreement. So that's the document we get the investors to sign. So the heads of terms agreement, the landlord signs, or the agent, if the deal coming from an agent, the landlord or the agent can sign it. And like I said, that's just to kind of outline what we've proposed and what they've said they're happy to go with. It's not a legally binding document. They are not obligated to do anything. They only become obligated when they sign the final document, which is the lease agreement. Now, the NDA is the non-disclosure agreement, and there's two versions. So you can see here after the follow-up call. So we've sent the deal to the investors. We've done the follow-ups. We've spoken to people who responded. So now we've got people interested, right? So in order for us to book the viewing in, the NDA is how we protect ourselves. So we're going to get the investor to sign one NDA, which is the investor NDA, which pretty much says any deal that I present to you, you cannot take it without paying me my fee. And you cannot go direct to the landlord or direct to the agent and take any deals without me being involved and without me essentially being paid my fee. So we need to make sure that NDA is signed, and we need to make sure that it's signed, especially because we source remotely. So we're not going to be there when these viewings are happening or when there's people meeting. Like if an investor views a property and the landlord is conducting the viewing, we're not there to kind of like circumvent any exchanges or phone numbers or things like that, right? Which sometimes is going to happen. But as long as you get your paperwork signed, that is going to help you. That's going to protect you, because people understand that, look, if I've signed this document that in black and white says I can't cut this guy out, right? There's no point me doing it, because if I do, he's going to pursue me legally and I'm going to end up paying him money and probably paying more money than I actually have to pay anyway, right? So we get the investor to sign the NDA to confirm that before booking the viewing. So this is before giving them the address, before giving them full details of the property or any pictures of the exterior of the building that they could use to cut us out of a deal. So the NDA has to be signed prior to viewings being booked in, right? Prior to that, we've only sent them brief details of the deal, by the way, right? So they've only got brief information. They have no address. They've only got one part of the postcode, just enough for them to know what city it's in, basically, or what part of the city, and brief details about the deal. But we haven't given them anything where they could just cut us out and go direct, right? So that's the NDA for the investor. But remember, we're also booking that viewing in with someone. So if it's a deal that's come from a co-sourcer, for example, we need to protect ourselves if we're sending that investor to view the property and the co-sourcer is going to be there. So the co-sourcer also needs to sign an NDA, and that's a co-sourcing NDA. It's separate. So there's two separate NDAs. So the co-sourcer is signing that NDA that basically says, in layman terms, whatever deals we do together, you have to pay me whatever fee we've agreed, whatever splits we've agreed, and vice versa as well. Whatever deal we do together, I have to pay you whatever has been agreed, right? Whoever gets paid the fee, because obviously with NDAs, just to be clear, it's never about one specific property. So the NDA you're signing with your investor and with your co-sourcers covers you for any deals moving forward from that signature. Well, the NDAs that I have, obviously you guys might have separate ones if you're getting them from other places, but usually that's what it is, because you don't want to have to sign a new one every single time there's another deal. It will get ridiculous, right? So you get that signed, protect yourself so that you can orchestrate these deals without having to physically be there, but still have peace of mind that you're not going to be cut out and you will be paid your fee. And you guys have you've seen all the examples, right? Or just a fraction of the examples. These guys are getting paid. In my 13, almost 14 years of sourcing, I have never ever done a deal where someone's cut me out and I've not been paid, unless it's happened and I wasn't aware of it. But from it, for as far as I know, every single client that I've presented a deal to that they've been interested in has paid me, and it seems to be the same with hundreds of others I'm working with. And I honestly believe that that's because we are getting our paperwork signed at the right time to make sure that we're protected, right? So very important. So NDAs are signed, viewings are booked in. So it might be the co-sourcer conducting the viewing, it might be the landlord, could be the agent. We've had tenants do viewings, right? If the property is still tenanted, it's going to be obviously vacant when the client takes it on. But at that time, it might still have a tenant in, and the tenant opens the door to let them do the viewing. So you are going to arrange that. Every deal is different. Every situation is different. But whoever it is, we're sending the client to go and view. And once the client has viewed the property, they will make an offer if they're interested. So usually the offer, we present the offer to the agent or landlord or co-sourcer, wherever the deals come from, based on where it's come from out of the process. We present it to them verbally first, just to put the feelers out and see how they feel about the offer. Of course, if it's an asking price offer, usually they're going to just say yes. But if it's an offer whereby we need to negotiate, we'll put it forward verbally first, and then we'll put it forward to them in writing if they agree. And that's pretty much the process, right? So it literally goes from network or landlord, property, do your checks, get your paperwork signed, deal secured, get it sent directly to your qualified investor list. Some of them will respond. You deal with those guys. If they're interested, get them in for the viewing. Follow-up calls for the ones that didn't respond to your message. Generate that interest. Get them booked in for the viewings. NDAs are signed. Get them through the doors. They viewed. They're interested. They make their offer. We present their offer to the landlord, agent, or co-sourcer. There may be some back and forth. If not, then it's pretty straightforward. All they need to do is sign the lease agreements, which is like the final contract, the final document that both parties need to sign to complete the sale. Now, if a deal comes from an agent, there may be extra things that need to be done, right? Checks, certain bits of information need to be provided by the client. They need to do certain things to give themselves and the landlord peace of mind. It's just policy usually for agents, but it's not something we need to be concerned about. We just request the information from our client, and again, 9 times out of 10 they'll just provide it. It won't be a problem unless they can't. If it's something, if they're asking for something that the client can't provide, then all we can do is either go back and ask if there's anything else that can be provided, or we can't sell it to that client and we've got to entertain the other people that are interested. But essentially, if there's more information needed, or if there's checks that need to be done, we just request it from the client. It's not something we need to necessarily be worried about. But that process, all in all, from start to finish, so from co-sourcer sending you deal, or agent, or you securing deal directly from landlords, all the way through to that final sale where the contracts are signed and the sourcing fee is paid, can literally take a matter of days. Literally. If a rent-to-rent deal takes more than a week to complete, there's some sort of difficulty. It's a complicated deal. That's how you should even kind of look at it, right? Because on average, these deals are taking about 7 days roughly to complete. We've seen the examples of them going quicker. We saw Harry, 2 hours. We've seen Denise, 3 days. You know, we've seen people do 2 weeks, a week. So it just depends, right? But on average, 7 days. So um that takes me on to talking about, just before I move on, actually, guys, again, just want to make sure everyone can still hear me okay and still see the whiteboard okay. Okay, there's some questions as well. Okay, let me answer these questions and then we'll move on. So Lawrence asks a good question. How do you know if an investor is, or how do you know an investor is not going to go behind your back? Surely someone will take that risk. The honest question, the honest answer, Lawrence, is you don't. And the only way you're going to know is if you build strong relationships and build rapport. So, for example, I'll give you a prime example. The other day, um, one of the guys in the program on our group call was just telling me that a landlord on a deal that he's selling contacted him to let him know that one of the investors that he had sent to view the property, not the investor that's buying the deal, because the deal's sold and it's in the process of being sold, but someone that had expressed interest before had attempted to contact the landlord directly. I can't remember how they done it, whether they sent a letter or something along those lines. But because the my mentee has such a good relationship with that landlord, they've spoken on the phone. They've, it's not just we've messaged each other once or twice on the platform, and now I'm trying to sell your house as a rent to rent deal. No, they've actually had real conversations. This deal has been negotiated properly, and so there's a level of respect and trust there between him and the landlord. So because of that, he's relayed that to him. Hey, look, they contacted me. You know, now how that conversation goes between that person and that investor, whether he still wants to work with them and things like that, is obviously another conversation. But essentially, because that rapport and relationship was built with the landlord, they let him know about that. So that's the only way that you can really know these types of things, to be honest with you. I mean, the other way is, of course, if you had like a rent to SA deal, and it didn't sell for whatever reason, and you thought that you'd lost it, but then you could see that it's being marketed on Airbnb or booking.com, for example, sometime afterwards, then maybe you could assume that the investor still went behind your back, or the landlord decided to sell it, to a client as a company let, right? You could assume something maybe dodgy like that's happened. But again, you're still not going to know, because that landlord could have just changed their mind and decided, you know what, rather than trying to find a traditional tenant, I'm just going to put it on Airbnb myself. So it's very difficult, to be honest. There has to be an element of trust. You have to give people the benefit of the doubt. I say it all the time. Someone signs your NDA, trust them. Trust that they're going to do things the right way. If they prove you wrong and they don't, that's fine. I mean, they're putting themselves at risk because they'll be liable. You can pursue them legally, so they'll end up having to pay you that money anyway. But yeah, just give people the benefit of the doubt. Like I said, I don't know of anyone where that's happened, and I haven't experienced it myself. So I'd like to think that people will operate the right way as long as you're communicating with them the right way, and essentially building that relationship with them. So I hope that makes sense, Lawrence. Sam said, I have just started leaving voice messages to some of the investors I've written messages to. I just had investor respond with a yes. And there you go, Sam. Well bloody done. I love that. I love it when people do things in real time and see the results. Obviously, when people join the program, these are the kind of conversations I'm having with them all the time. They're like mind blown. I didn't even realize there was that much investors looking for deals in such and such area, for example. And people are shocked at how responsive these investors in the groups are. So well done, Sam. Really, really good to hear that. Let me get through a few more questions and then I'm going to continue so I don't keep you guys too long. John Mark said, I have worked with an agent. They normally give me rent to rent, but they refuse to sign my heads of terms. Do you think I should continue working with those agents anymore? They have cut me out of a deal in the past before. You've answered your own question, John Mark. I wouldn't work with anyone that's cut me out of a deal. So that's your answer right there. And the fact that they don't want to sign anything sometimes is a telltale sign, because that's the thing. Unless it goes back to what I was just saying to Sam. You see, when people sign things, they feel a little bit more obligated to play by the rules. But if they're not signing it, sometimes people make mistakes, and you know, send investors for viewings and don't get an NDA signed, for example. And I'm always like, that's really risky, because if that person decides to go behind your back and take that deal, you wouldn't have much of a leg to stand on if you pursued them in court, really, because you've got nothing in writing to confirm that, you know, you presented the deal to them, you arranged the viewing, etc., etc. It just, you know, so you just have to be really, really careful. So yeah, to answer your question, I wouldn't work with that agent again, John Mark, if they've cut you out. Okay. Last one before I carry on. Trusted, I had an investor when I was first starting out, basically cut us out and ended up having contact with the landlord, but it was quickly resolved as the agent stopped that from happening. And there you go. You see, because you had that relationship with the agent, they cut it out, you know. It will happen sometimes. Look, we're dealing with human beings. You are gonna, and we're dealing with a lot of human beings. So you are gonna get the odd person who's a bit shady and tries to do, but that's normal, isn't it? That's just with life in general. You know, you come across a bunch of people. Usually, there's gonna maybe be one or two of them that's a little bit shady. So you just got to be careful. But like I said, as long as you get your paperwork signed and you communicate with people properly to build that rapport and relationship, people will find it really difficult to cut you out. You're making it difficult for them to actually cut you out by being a little bit more on the ball when it comes to NDAs, conversations, communicating. You know, even down to small things. I always say to the guys, you know, after reviewing, you should be calling your client straight away, and you should be calling the agent or the landlord or whoever you got the deal from. It's not just call the investor and ask, "Do you like it? Do you want to take it?" I know that's where the money's going to come from, but you have to take care of everybody almost equally, right? And keep things like this in mind. If you want them to be loyal to you and let you know if someone's trying to do something dodgy, you have to communicate with them and keep them up to date with what's happening, and show them that you actually genuinely care about trying to do a good job. Yeah. So yeah, well done, Trust. Clearly you had that relationship, and that's why the agent let you know. And that's what I said. You know, I've had the same experience. I haven't really had anyone cut me out. Haven't had anyone come to me and say, "Oh, Gary, this person tried to cut you out." But I've always tried to have really good relationships with everyone I do business with, so that if that was to ever happen, I'm quite confident that I'd be contacted. So yeah, okay, cool. So guys, that was the process. So let's take a quick look at the steps we're using to put all of this together, right? So you saw the funnel, which was essentially starting with free Facebook groups, and just navigating them in a certain way in order to be clear on what areas we're covering, build an investor list, build a network of a network of co-sourcers that can send us deals. You can actually also build your network of agents using groups, because there are loads of estate agent groups as well. But my preference for finding agents is actually to go direct via Google, which we'll talk about in a second when we get to that part. But essentially, part of the funnel, you know, having those relationships with the agents as well, and then also having a steady flow of direct to landlord opportunities coming your way as well, just by being proactive. You know, I'm a huge fan of Gumtree. So we've secured and sold a ton of deals from Gumtree. And my whole thing is, these guys are just putting their phone number there on the platform. There's not many other platforms you can go on and get the landlord's phone number and just call them directly. So for me, that's like, it's easy money. It's just easy pickings, right? If you're confident enough to just pick up the phone and have the conversation, you can secure a lot of deals. We've secured deals live over and over and over again on our group calls, whether it's me on the phone securing it or I get the guys to come on and be in the hot seat and do it. So very, very important. So that's the funnel. Let's talk a little bit about the actual steps, right? So and why we're even doing these steps, or why we're covering these parts. So number one, as I said, Facebook groups. So for me, Facebook has the biggest rent-to-rent community online. And because we're focusing on rent-to-rent deals, that's the type of deals we're selling mainly. It just makes sense for us to be on Facebook and in the Facebook rent-to-rent groups, right? I've done the research, guys, and I'm happy for someone to correct me if they think I'm wrong. I've looked on LinkedIn, I've looked on Instagram, I've looked on TikTok, I've looked on not really Snapchat. I don't think Snapchat even has the option to have groups and things like that. But I've looked on all of these different platforms. and none of them has the presence of a rent-to-rent community like Facebook does, and in particular Facebook groups. Like I said, we're in groups that have like 40,000 people in them, all specifically interested in rent-to-rent. So it's really, really important that you take full advantage of these groups, right? And this platform just in general. Secondly, it's free, right? Like I said to you earlier, just imagine you're finding people that are happy to pay you £3,000 within days that you paid zero to find, right? You know, I was funny. I was just talking with someone the other day, and they was telling me about their Facebook ad budget and how much they're spending every month on Facebook to secure landlord deals or try and find investors and things like that. And I was just mind blown, because I'm like, mate, we're spending 0 pennies. We don't spend anything on ads at all. We are literally just being proactive and going direct, and it's working, as you guys can see, right? My guys that are doing this organically, no paid ads, just going direct using my strategy, are selling more deals than a lot of these guys that are paying for ads. And the main uh place that we're starting that off is in these Facebook groups. So it's the biggest rent-to-rent community online by far. It's free. There's thousands of members within these groups, 36,000 within this group right here. This group is not even at 36,000 anymore. It's actually on about 38, 39,000. So it's still growing. And I would actually advise every single one of you, if you're going to do this and take this seriously, you need to be in this group. For me, this is the best rent-to-rent group out there. There's a few other ones that are like similar sized, but in terms of activity, this is probably the busiest one. So much engagement. You can definitely pick the areas that you're going to cover just using the data that's in this group, for example. But as I said, there's hundreds of them. Literally, you know, I've even got a Facebook group which has, again, quite a lot of data in it. It's got 6,000 members, but it's targeted to just deal sources, so it's a little bit different. You're not going to see as many, or you probably won't see any investor comments and things like that. So it's a little bit different. You need to be in groups like this where it's just a free for all for people to sell deals, discuss rent to rent, do everything. That's where you're going to find the people. Okay, so years of valuable data. JM said, "What's the name of the group?" This it's right here, JM. Can everybody see the screen in full? Yeah. So I've got number one Facebook groups, and then I've got a little list, and then I've actually got a screenshot of the group. Can everyone see that? Do I need to zoom in or zoom out? Let me know if I need to zoom in or zoom out. Is it too large or too small? Just let me know, and then I can change it for you guys. You should be able to see a screenshot of the group I'm talking about. Zoom in. Okay, so it's too small. How about now, guys? Can you see that? Just let me know in the chat if you can see that. And just to make it easier, the name of the group, it's quite a long name. That's why I wanted you to just see the screenshot. But just so you know, it's Rent to Rent Deals, and it's the number 2, not the word 2. So Rent to Rent Deals, SA, and Lease Option Deals. That's what's the name of the group. Now, I know it mentions lease options in the title, but I mean, when you go in it, you'll see for yourself, nobody really talks about lease options in there anymore. To be honest, lease options, when I started in 2011, lease options were hot. I've sold a ton of lease option deals. I've invested in lease options. I know firsthand how hot they were at that time. Compared to now, it's quiet in the lease option world. Everybody's more focused on rent to rent, and it makes sense because with rent to rent, it's just the barrier to entry is so low that it's a no-brainer. So okay, guys, I'm not seeing any comments. Can everyone see that screenshot of the group? Just let me know in the chat. JM, can you see it now? Lawrence, can you see it now? Just let me know. Talk to me, guys. Just write in the chat if you can see it, and then I'll carry on. Okay, you can see it now. Okay, Fatu can't see it. Can you guys see the writing though? Fatu, can you see the writing? that says Facebook groups, and then Facebook has the biggest rent-to-rent community online. It's free. Can you see that list? Yes, you can. Okay. All right. I'm going to read through it, guys. So hopefully you can see it, but I'll read through it. And again, like I said, this is being recorded. So you should be able to see it on the replay if you missed it, because it's on my screen. So this screen is being recorded. So as I said, look, Facebook groups, number one, has the biggest rent-to-rent community online by far. It's free. So you can join all of these groups for free and have access to all of this data, valuable data. There's years of data. When you look back in some of these groups, they go back to like 10 years, sometimes more, you know. So all those comments and deals that have been posted in these groups, they're still there. So that's data, that's free data that we can use to find these people and to, you know, do all the things that I'm telling you. There's new opportunities every single day in these groups as well, because the deal sourcing world is so busy right now that, and if you're paying attention, you'll see this for yourself. There are deals being posted left, right, and center every hour of every day, literally. I mean, like I said, my Facebook group, Deal Sourcers United, has 6,000 people in it, and my VA is accepting about 50 to 60 deals in that group daily, daily. And that's in a group where there's only 6,000 people. Imagine what the amount of deals that are posted in a group that has almost 40,000 people, like this one, for example, right? So what happens is when deals are posted in these groups, investors comment. And for us, that's valuable data because we can reach out to those people, which I'll cover in a second, right? So very, very important. And not only just for the investor side, I mean, we can reach out to the investors in the comments, but we can also reach out to the co-sources that are posting the deals as well, so that we can build our network. So it's just so valuable, you know. And also you can create your own group and have full control. And my group, Deal Sourcers United, is like a perfect example. The amount of people that have reached out to me about business just from that group, or because I have control of the group, I can probably see opportunities in there better than other people can. And I'll see it before other people can, because when people are trying to post deals, for example, I'm seeing it, you know, before it gets accepted, I see. So I can reach out to these people, I can form relationships if I wanted to, and if you had that type of group. So that's another option as well, creating your own group that you can control and also take full advantage of. Yeah. Now, the way to find these Facebook groups, just because I want to give you guys actionable steps, and I hope everyone's taking note, is going into Facebook, going into the Facebook section. So to get into the Facebook section, a Facebook group section, apologies, there's a little icon which has like three little men in it. It's a little blue icon, and that takes you to the Facebook group section. For those of you who are doing it right now live, you should be seeing that. There will be a search box in the Facebook group section. In that search box, you want to be typing in rent to rent. You want to be typing in rent to SA. You want to be typing in R2R, R2HMO. Basically, you want to type in every phrase that you're aware of that is associated with rent to rent, but you want to do them one by one. So you do rent to rent first, you hit enter. And when you hit enter, after you're typing each of these in one by one, it's going to bring up a list of all of the rent to rent groups. And for those of you who are only in like 5, 6, 7, 20 groups, you're going to be so shocked how many rent to rent groups there are, firstly, that you're not in. So you want to join every single one of those groups. So that's the first thing that you should be doing before you do anything. So for those of you who, when we're talking about the foundations, you're like doing any other part of the process before you've added yourself to these groups, my suggestion would be to stop, go back. You could do it tonight. Literally, it will take you half an hour. Go into those groups. Go into Facebook, go into the Facebook group section, do what I've suggested, and add yourself to as many of those groups as possible. That's the first thing you need to do. That's going to open you up to a world of opportunities. And honestly, like I said, all these guys that you've seen the examples of that are selling these deals, this is what they've had to do, right? So number two is picking your areas. So we want to be picking high demand areas. Like I mentioned earlier, we're not interested in operating in areas just because it's where we live, or it's close to where we live, or our best friend lives there, for example. We want to base it strictly on demand, right? So you can kind of see here when you're going into the group. Well, actually, I'll talk about that in a second. You want to use the free Facebook groups to quickly pick your areas based strictly on demand and engagement, not logistics. So when you go into the groups and you start to do this research, you're going to see clear as day which areas are getting the most interest. And the way you're going to see that is by the investors in the comment sections reaching out. So this is just an example of one. Like, but on this post, for example, there would be like 10, 20, 30, 40, sometimes 50 comments from investors expressing their interest. It might be a post where there's multiple areas, which is what I think this one was. So it might have been like Birmingham, London, Manchester, rent to rent deals. And then you have a bunch of investors in the comment section expressing which area they're interested in. So you'll be able to just make a tally, make a note of which areas are getting the most interest, and just scroll through the groups and you'll be able to see that clear as day. And to be honest with you, just to make it even easier for you, it's usually the bigger cities that are getting the most interest. So of course, London, Birmingham, Manchester, Liverpool, these types of places. Nottingham gets a lot of interest, Coventry. But don't just take my word for it. Go and do that research. Just start typing in the areas and just having a look for yourself. Now you can focus on 3 areas maximum, but I think it's easier to dominate less areas. So like I mentioned to you earlier, I've actually got quite a few guys in the program right now that are just focusing on one area. That's their strategy, and they're really dominating. And I think it's because you don't have to worry about anything else other than that area. So if I pick London, I know I don't have to worry about Birmingham investors or not Nottingham landlords, or I don't have to kind of spread myself thin. I can just tunnel vision on London and absolutely smash it. So you'll be able to also see any market changes in real time and adapt really quickly. So because you're in those free Facebook groups, you're going to see, whether that demand changes or whether there's anything happening in terms of rent to rents in that area, because you're in that world now, right? That's where the community is. So you can very quickly pick a new area using that same group again. So you go back in and say, okay, this area seems to be dying out for whatever reason. Doesn't really happen like that, but let's just say it did. An area just went really quiet out of the blue. You say, okay, look, no problem. I'm done with that area. Let me just come back in, do my research, and pick another 1 to 3 areas. And you can do that very quickly with that same free Facebook group. Okay. Is everybody clear on this so far? So everyone's clear on Facebook groups, how to join them, why to join them, and also high demand areas, how to pick them, why to pick them. Is everyone clear on that? Just give me a yes if you are in the chat, or a no if you're not, and then I can maybe go into a bit more detail. Just let me know in the chat, guys, yes or no. JM said yes, brilliant. Okay. Emma said yes, on point, perfect. Okay, good. All right, I just want to make sure that we're not leaving anyone behind. Everyone's understanding. Like I said, guys, after this call, you should be able to go away and get started on this straight away. Whether you decide to work with me or not, the information I'm giving you is actionable. This is what the guys are literally using to make this money that you're seeing. So take this very seriously. Make sure you're making notes, or if you're not making notes, make sure you're making mental notes so that you can get started on it. Okay, so that's the areas. Number 3 is, of course, the investor list, and I kind of explained earlier to you why that's so important, right? But we'll talk about it again in short. A qualified investor list, to be specific, and you're going to find thousands of investors that are already looking for rent to rent deals in the area or areas that you're covering inside those free Facebook groups. And to be honest, this is probably like one of the main reasons why you want to be in those groups, because honestly, it's still mind boggling to me that you can find these people in these groups for free, not pay them a penny, not invest a penny into these deals. And within a couple of days, within a week, this same person that you just found in that free Facebook group is paying you £3,000. It's still crazy to me. So you have to take this seriously. So Again, going into those groups, reaching out to those investors. You can see some examples here of the type of thing you'd be looking out for. So let's say you was covering Manchester and you was looking in the groups. What you would be doing is type in the area that you're covering. So you type Manchester in that group search box and hit enter. And then what would happen is all of the Manchester rent-to-rent deals that have ever been posted in that group will come up in a list. So Facebook just makes it easy for us. They get rid of all the noise, because you can imagine if you had to like scroll through the whole group, especially one where there's like 40,000 people in it. It's years and years and years of posts. So because you're typing that area in the search box, Facebook kind of like just kind of makes it easier for you. They put everything in a list and then you just scroll through, and basically you're looking in the comment sections of any deals that have been posted in that area. So for example, here you would see people saying, please can I have details of Manchester, interested in Manchester. This person's asking for Coventry, so it's a little bit different. But in a list, you would see everybody expressing interest. So Julie would get a message, Jane would get a message because they're interested in the area that I'm covering, and potentially they would be an investor that might buy a deal off me next week. You know, what I would be doing is sending them all a voice note. I want to give them that personal touch, that human interaction, and I want to try and break the ice before we even jump on a phone call. So I'd message Julie, hey Julie, how's it going? Hope you're well. I literally just saw your comment on a rent-to-rent deal in Manchester. Just wanted to see if you're still interested in deals like that at the moment. Quick voice note, that's it. Jane gets the same one. Hey Jane, how's it going? Hope you're well. I just saw that you left a message on a rent-to-rent deal in Manchester. Just wanted to see if you're still looking for deals like that at the moment. And I'll just send that out to all of the people that I find, right? You can send it written as well, of course. But I just believe that you get a much, much better response when they hear your voice, as Sam just proved, right? So literally, Sam's just done it on the call, messaged, sent a voice note to someone that originally they sent a written message to, I think they said, and they got a response straight away. It works, guys. You know, I'm not just saying this because I think it. I've witnessed hundreds of people come through my program and do it. Literally, I've had people come join the program. Gary, I've been following your steps before I joined. I've messaged 500 people, right? They're probably exaggerating. I've messaged loads of people. How did you message them? Oh, it was a written message. Okay, this is what I want you to do. Go back and send every single one of them a voice note following up saying, and I'll give them an example of what to say, and come back and let me know what happens. And everyone I send away to go and do that, they come back and they say, much better response. People are responding, they're happy to jump on a call. These are people who you already messaged. You know, we have to understand that there's like a whole psychology behind business. You know, it's not just let's make money. There, you kind of have to look at it as how, because we're interacting with human beings, how can I make that interaction as smooth as possible? And doing things like letting them hear your voice, letting them see your face. If you're happy to do like a video, for example, you don't have to do that. But if you want to take it a bit further, get creative, do a video and things like that, that is what makes the difference. Because I couldn't tell you the amount of investors that I said, Gary, every deal sourcer communicates with me the exact same way. So it's all written. You're the first sourcer that I've actually spoken with on the phone, that's picked up the phone and called me and actually had a conversation. So I know that it's like unusual for sources to communicate well with investors. So if you start to implement that, straight away you give yourself an edge. Yeah, is everyone clear on that? Does that make sense? Give me a yes in the chat if that made sense. So, as I said, you're going to send them a voice note, personal touch, human interaction. We want to be breaking the ice. JM said yes. Okay, brilliant. Then we want to be qualifying them on a quick phone call. Now, sometimes investors are going to be reluctant to give you their phone number up front. Again, because we're absolute strangers when we first approach them. So I always like to suggest a free Facebook call first. Because usually by the end of the Facebook call, they give the phone number anyway, because we've done what we was going to do on the phone call, which is essentially break the ice, start the relationship, build rapport. The difference with the Facebook call, though, is that none of us need to exchange phone numbers. So if I can sense that someone's a little bit reluctant to give their phone number, they're kind of like trying to just give me all the information in a message, for example, I would voice note them and just say, hey Jane, for example, hey Jane, thanks for coming back to me. Really appreciate that. Look, it would be great if we jump on a call as soon as you're available, just so I can go over your criteria, make sure I'm crystal clear on it. I just want to introduce myself properly. You know, I hate to just send random deals to people without actually having a conversation with them first. But what we could do is, rather than jumping on an actual phone call, we can just jump on a Facebook call. And if you look in the top right hand corner of our this chat right now, there's a little phone icon. If we press it, we can do a phone call, which is exactly the same as a normal phone call, but we just don't have to exchange phone numbers. And again, you would be so shocked how many people have gone from, I don't want to jump on a phone call, here's the information, kind of, not them literally saying that, but kind of like that whole approach. They go from that to, yeah, no problem. Okay. You jump on the Facebook call, you have a good convo, you introduce yourselves properly, a little bit of banter, rapport is being built, and the next thing you know, they're giving you their phone number, email address, and they're ready to buy deals from you. And it's just like those small things that most sources aren't going to take the time to do. I say take the time, but really it's not. I mean, it's a quick phone call, 10, 15 minutes, if that, you know. So very, very important. Is everyone clear on that as well? Please, please, please make sure you've made a note of that, because I know that there's so many people struggling to communicate with investors the right way. And it's just these little things that you can suggest that will make the difference and make them maybe feel a little bit more comfortable working with you, or even just speaking with you. Forget about working with you, having the conversation with you in the first place. So just want to make sure everyone's clear on that. Yeah. So somebody asked, I did see it pop up. I think someone asked, how do you qualify them? Let me just make sure I'm not missing any questions, guys. By the way, I really appreciate your patience, because I know there's a lot of back and forth going on. But again, the only reason I'm doing that is because I want to make sure that everybody is crystal clear on everything. I don't want to rush ahead and then someone's left behind. So, okay, so someone asked, it was JM. He said, how do you qualify investors before adding them to your list? Okay, so it's just a set of questions, really. So, I mean, I've got a whole list, so I won't go through the whole list, but essentially, all I want to know is a little bit about their experience. So, are they brand new, or have they already got some units? I want to know a little bit about their budget. So how much have they got up front to spend? And when I say budget and spend up front, I'm talking about how much can you spend in terms of deposit, first month's rent, my sourcing fee, furniture if it needs to be furnished, you know, works if it needs to be, whatever costs come up. And, you know, different costs come up sometimes with rent to rent deals. It just depends on what type of deal it is. What's your budget? Yeah. A little bit about their situation and how quickly they can proceed if I present a deal that fits. So there's a number of different questions. But what I always say to people when they ask me about the qualifying questions is, really all you're asking is the questions that's going to give you peace of mind that this person is genuinely serious, right? So that could be a number of different questions. There might be something that makes you feel a little bit more comfortable working with someone that you need to know, that for me, I don't necessarily need to know that for me to be comfortable, because I've got a different bit of information. Do you see what I mean? So I don't think there's a right or wrong way to qualify people, to be honest. I think it's just more about, because really it is all about you having peace of mind. So as long as you're happy with whatever information they give you, that's fine. I always say to people though, doesn't matter how much we qualify investors. It really doesn't. I mean, of course, we have to qualify them, but ultimately, you never really find out how serious or how qualified an investor really is until you put a deal in front of them and it's time to sell and it's time for them to take a deal on. That's when you really find out, you know. But essentially, upfront, we're qualifying just to try and filter out anyone that's not serious or not in the position to move forward, doesn't have the budget, etc., etc., etc. Yeah. So okay, and then essentially after we've qualified them on a call, we add them to our investor list with their contact details, their criteria, etc. So now we've got all of their information. And like I mentioned to you guys earlier, you could literally just save that at first just on a spreadsheet. That should be enough for you to be able to refer to it as and when you need to. or you can use a CRM. I personally don't think you need one at that stage, but it's an option. Let me just move this down. Okay. So number 4 is your network. So now that you've built your investor list, of course, it is now time for you to feed them the deals, right? So the quickest and easiest way to start selling deals and making money is to partner with others, to co-source. um, you'll find thousands of co-sources that are operating in the exact same area as you inside those free Facebook groups, literally. These screenshots here are just examples. So, this person, Stuart, who's posted this rent to SA deal, if you're someone that's covering Leamington Spa, then you would want to reach out to Stuart and everybody else within those groups who have ever posted a deal in Leamington Spa, right? Because if he's had a deal there before, it's very likely that either it's an area he covers or he might just get another deal there in the future because he clearly is open to doing business there. So it's definitely worth reaching out to these people. As I said, a lot of the examples of the sales that I showed you above are co-source deals, so they have done exactly what I'm advising you now. They've gone in the groups, they've started reaching out to the people who have posted deals previously in the areas they're covering, they've struck up those relationships, and then when they've had a chance to catch up with them again, they've got a deal from them and sold it. And it cost them nothing to find that person, communicate with them, secure the deal. It's crazy, right? So that's the quickest way that you can start selling deals, is to partner up with co-sources and start building that network. As I mentioned here, you're going to split the fees. So if you sell one deal together, it will be a £3,000 fee and you'll split it 50-50. You both walk away with £1,500 each. And these deals are only taking a few days. So it's not a bad day's work, if you can walk away with £1,500. We have a lady called Leandra in our program. I'll never forget one of the first times that she sold a deal 100. Well, actually, it wasn't one of the first times. She had sold quite a few deals by then, but this deal in particular, she was quite happy with the fee that she got, even though it was actually less than a direct fee. So she got £1,500, but she said the reason why she was so happy with it was because she literally done nothing, as in she never had to leave her house, she never had to do much. I don't even think she really had to do anything in terms of putting everything together. It was just a straightforward sale, and it was all pretty much handled by the co-source. So she just had the investor and kind of put them across to that person, and then next thing you know, she was paid that fee, £1,500. So it is very, very powerful. I saw someone leave a comment. 1 second, let me just make sure I haven't missed anything. Okay, Lawrence lost connection. Okay, Lawrence, don't worry. Remember, this is all being recorded. So if you do get chucked out of the room and you're trying to get back in, and you struggle, I'm going to be uploading it tonight once it's all processed. So you can always watch it back over. And Emma said, I'm a newbie. Please, Gary, throw more light at what point I can get sourcing free from my clients. So as I said, you get the sourcing fee after the deal sold. So once the deal is sold and the final lease agreement is signed by both parties, the investor will pay the sourcing fee and then the keys will be released to that investor. Now, that's the way we do it. For me, that's the most ethical way to do it. I know there are people who take fees up front and they take fees before viewings and things like that, but I just don't think that's the right way to do it. And I know of so many nightmares, so many horror stories where people have co-sourced and they've got their investor to pay the fee up front to the co-sourcer, and then the co-sourcer disappears, and now you're left having to pay back that fee and things like that. So we just avoid money up front at all costs, right? So it's once the contracts are signed, the money is paid. And as I said, these deals only take a few days. So there's not really any rush to take the money up front, to be honest with you. I mean, it's different when you're dealing with the bigger deals where it takes months to be paid. Sometimes people ask for the fee up front because they just want that peace of mind that, okay, at least the money's been paid. It's here. When the deal's finally done, then we will receive that money. But even in that situation, I'm very skeptical about taking the money up front because, again, it's not really yours until the sale completes, right? So until that deal's done and dusted, contract signed, everything's been done, everything's across the line, you can't really touch that money anyway. So it's just vanity to have it sitting in your account. So yeah, we take the money once the contracts are signed and the deal's done. Hope that makes sense. Emma? Okay. Okay, so where was I? So yeah, we split the fee 50-50 with our co-sourcers. And that's how the relationship goes with them. Very straightforward. We find them in the free Facebook groups. We reach out. We jump on a call with them. I've got a qualifying list for my co-sources as well. So I don't just qualify investors. I qualify co-sources too. I want to make sure that they know what they're doing, and just a few things that I check outside of just the normal questions, compliance and things like that. Our next step in terms of building our network is letting agents. And I've just seen that Ravi actually asked a question about this, so it's perfect timing. So we find thousands of letting agents that are happy to pass us properties where the landlord is open to doing a rent-to-rent deal. We find those agents on Google, as I mentioned earlier. And you can just see here, this is just an example. So when you go on Google and you type in small independent letting agent and then the area that you're covering. So if I was covering London, I'd type small independent letting agent London and I hit enter. It brings me up a list. Google does what Facebook does. It makes life easy for us. So it brings up a list of all of the agents that are the small kind of boutique agents that are operating in that area. And usually there's a ton of them. There is a ton. And it comes up in a list. So the list is quite long, so I couldn't put the screenshot. But above the list, you see on the map as well. So it looks like this. And you'll just see all the little pinpoints where all the agents are. And you just take your time, go through, give them a quick phone call. Sometimes they're going to know what you're talking about. Sometimes they aren't. And what I found is, as long as you're using the right language and you're handling objections the right way, you can sometimes get people who, agents who aren't even necessarily open to it at first, to turn around and change their mind. I've got a recording from one of our live call out sessions to agents. I don't think there's anyone on the call tonight that's from the program, but those of you who are, if you are, would remember when we done the call out session to the agents, and there was an agent that literally said no. There was reasons why. Mainly, he had a bad experience with someone that contacted him and attempted to do this before, and I got him to do a complete U-turn. It was a long conversation, don't get me wrong, but just the way I handled his objections, because I understood what the problem was, I understood how these deals work properly. I could give him a little bit more clarity on our clients and who they are, and the conversation was just so smooth. And he turned around and said, "You know what? I like you. I like the way you're approaching this. I'll give it one more chance, but don't let me down," kind of thing, right? So again, it's just about how you speak with them. So I prefer to go directly to them via the office, via Google. Sometimes people like to call about a specific property. I don't like to do that. I want to build my relationship with you just based on in general. So just moving forward, I want to work with you. I'm not interested in just one particular property. Ideally, I want to work with you for years and years to come. And that comes across a little bit better when you're just calling in general rather than, I've seen this property, I want to know about this property, right? Let them tell you if any of the properties that are on their books, a landlord will be open to what you're proposing. Yeah. And I just give them a quick phone call straight into the office, just to be clear. So Ravi asks, what's the most referral fee you would give to agents? As this topic nobody really speaks about. Around London, I've been to agents asking for 1K finder's fee and I did not go ahead, plus the deal was not stacking anyway. I think every deal is different. It's so difficult to give you a right or wrong answer on that because there isn't one really. I think sometimes you are going to have to give away maybe a little bit more than you want to. Like in that situation, for example, I'll be honest with you, I might have given him that 1K. I mean, you said the deal doesn't stack. So if that's the case, completely understand. But if I believe the deal doesn't stack, so I go and speak with my investor list, because remember, this is the luxury of having your investor list. If you think a deal doesn't stack up, it doesn't necessarily actually matter because we're not taking it on. But if I don't think a deal stacks up, I go to the people who are taking it on. I go to my list and I have a transparent conversation with them. Hey, look, I'm speaking with this landlord in Birmingham. They're open to what I'm proposing. Only issue is at the moment, they are asking for a little bit much on the rent. We're going back and forth on it, so the deal's not 100% secured. But I just wanted to get your take on it. What would you be open to offering on it? Would you even be interested in it? Right? And the amount of deals we've sold that way, absolutely crazy. Absolutely crazy, just because we had that luxury of speaking with the list up front. But to go back to your original question, you can see here I've put you can pay them a small referral fee of £500, but that isn't set in stone. You can be flexible, you can pay less. You know, we sometimes have paid agents like 250, £200, and they're happy with that. I think the relationship you have with the agent is going to play a big part towards what they're asking for as well. So maybe on that first deal, if the numbers did stack up, I might have said, you know what, I'm happy to let the agent take that 1K. But what's going to happen is after I've proven to him that I can get rid of the property for him with my clients, on the next one, I'm going to negotiate. And who knows, maybe on that one, I can't get anything less than 1K out of him. But maybe on the next one, because now I've proven twice that I can do this, he's going to be a little bit more open to it. And that's usually the case, to be honest with you. You prove to these agents that if they give you a property, you can get it filled, which is, by the way, helps them because it looks good for them with their landlord. And they get paid by their landlord, by the way. So if you can fill the properties for them, maybe on the first one, they'll be a little bit tight about what they want out of it. But by the second or third one, once you've built that relationship, 9 times out of 10, they're going to say, I'll drop the fee. You know, you're doing a good job. You're helping us. You're making us money. Let's negotiate on the fee. Yeah. So, yeah, you've got to kind of treat it as and when. You know, every deal is going to be different. Every situation is going to be different. You know, when you've got a deal where you're co-sourcing on it, so maybe you haven't got the buyer, but someone in your network does, and you've got it from an agent, the problem is you might not have enough wiggle room in the fee to even give the agent that money because you need to pay the co-sourcer as well. So you have to kind of just go, every deal's different and you kind of have to just play it by ear as and when the deal comes, if that makes sense. Yeah. Okay. And Lawrence asks, how do you get a referral fee from a co-sourcer who is compliant if you yourself haven't set up a business yet and don't have the right paperwork for them to sign, if that's possible? I'll be honest, that would be very difficult to do unless you have again, it goes back. I know I keep repeating it, but it goes back to relationships. You know, if this is a complete stranger that you've just messaged out the blue one day and now you're trying to do a deal with them, it might be difficult to get that fee out of them. But if you've genuinely built a relationship with them, you've had a phone call, you've been speaking, communicating, you know, you're sending deals back and forth, etc., then maybe you can be transparent with them and let them know, look, at the moment, I'm not compliant. I haven't got everything set up. I mean, really, you should have your company set up at least, to be honest. That's like bare minimum. It's like £12. It takes a couple of minutes online on the Gov website. So that you should at least have that sorted. Because the thing is, if you don't even have a company set up, sometimes people, they're not going to work with you, not necessarily because they just don't want to, but just because they're kind of like, how do I even know? Because if your company isn't set up, there's no like way of me even checking you out. I can't even cross-reference you to make sure you're who you say you are. You know, I have to just go off of what you're telling me. So sometimes having that, at least having the company set up, can kind of give people peace of mind that at least you're in the process of getting everything up and running properly. But like I said, outside of that, you may just have a really good relationship with a sourcer, be completely honest with him, and he says, you know what, I'll deal with everything. You just send me the investor or whatever, and I'll pay you the fee after. And if they're a genuine person, they will. But I would always suggest just try and get your stuff sorted out. Get your company registered, get yourself compliant if you can, just to avoid all of that headache of having to even worry about whether you're going to be paid or not. Yeah, I hope that answers your question. And in terms of paperwork, because you asked about paperwork as well, for example, in the program, when you join my program, you get every document that you need to take a deal from A to Z, every single one. So that's an option. The other option, of course, is to pay people to write up the documents for you or to try and buy them online, things like that. But yeah, in our program, you get it every document absolutely free. Okay, so Brenda said it's £50 now. Oh, I didn't even know that. Wow. Okay, £50 to set up to register your company. Are you talking about registering your company direct or using another, because I know sometimes people use other companies to set up their company. As far as I'm aware, it's still only like £12 to set up your company, but I could be wrong. Don't quote me. Don't quote me on that. I haven't set up a new company in a little while. But okay, so I hope that answers your questions, guys. So let's keep going. Let's keep moving. So where was we? So you pay them a small referral fee, if that's even what they're requesting. Because to be honest, a lot of agents don't even want a referral fee. They're not even asking for it because again, they get paid by the landlord anyway. So if you fill that property, they're going to get paid. You're going to get paid. Everyone's happy. So yeah, that's what you want to focus on. And like I said earlier, working with co-sourcers and agents is just going to almost halve your workload, because they're doing the heavy lifting when it comes to communicating with the landlord and getting the landlord on board with what it is we're trying to do. You're only really having to handle your investors. So that workload is split. If you was dealing with everything yourself, as you can imagine, you're handling the investors, you're handling your agent if it's from an agent, and maybe the landlord, or if it's direct from a landlord, you're having to handle that landlord and the agent and the investor. And sometimes balancing the two, it's not always easy straight away when you're kind of like finding your feet. But if you know how to communicate well, then it is pretty straightforward. Okay, so that's getting the deals from the network. The next step, of course, is getting the deals directly from the landlords, right? Just put my charger in, guys. Directly from the landlords. As I mentioned to you guys earlier, I am a huge fan of Gumtree. So I do call out sessions with the mentees where we just get on the phone and literally get on Gumtree, whatever area it is they're covering. We don't overthink it. We just call back to back every landlord that's got a property available in their area. And the results are crazy. We've literally had sessions where we called like 5 landlords back to back and they all said yes. Or we call, 5 landlords, or call 10 landlords off Gumtree, and maybe 7 don't answer, but like the 3 that do, 2 of them say yes, and things like that. Like, it's so powerful. And like I mentioned to you guys earlier, when they're advertising the property themselves, not via an agent, there's already some kind of motivation there. There's a reason why you haven't just given it to an agent and allowed them to do it. It almost says that you're in a rush. You couldn't even wait for the agent to try and find you a tenant. You're rushing to try and find it yourself. So okay, we can help you, because if it's been sitting on the market for a little while and you still haven't found someone, then maybe the option we have where a company will rent it from you makes a big difference. So when you sell a deal that you secured directly from the landlord, you walk away with the full £3,000 sourcing fee. This is, of course, where you make the most money. I think I mentioned it earlier. So you're going to find motivated landlords for free on classified websites like Gumtree. I love calling them directly. Look, this is an example here. This gentleman advertised the property and phone numbers there, right? You're going to use the right language to avoid confusion, i.e., can a company rent this property? And honestly, I can't explain to you how much of a better result or better response you get from landlords when you ask the question in the most simple way, i.e. like that. So can a company rent this property, or are you open to a company renting the property? Basically asking that question as straightforward as you can. Because the problem is, the minute you start mentioning corporate lets or rent to rent or company lets to landlords, usually you start to confuse them and scare them off. Because as I try to explain to people all the time, all of these terms, rent to rent, corporate let, company let, it's investor jargon, right? These are the terms that investors use when they're talking about these deals. Landlords, this person, Colin, when he put this property on Gumtree, he was looking for a traditional tenant, someone that's an AST, just a normal tenant. He wasn't expecting a company to rent the property, right? So when I approach him and I start talking about corporate lets and rent to rent and this and that, he gets confused, and essentially I could lose him, right? But if I approach the conversation a little bit differently and I just drop in there. So I don't just come on the phone straight away and ask, oh, can a company rent this? I come on the phone, I ask a little bit about the property, I open the conversation up, try and, again, similar to when we're speaking with investors. You want to try and break the ice a little bit. I don't know how many phone calls you guys have done when you're calling out to landlords, but sometimes, not often, but sometimes initially the phone call can be a little bit frosty if the landlord can kind of gauge that you're not just like a normal person calling about what a tenant would normally be calling about, right? So you need to kind of like break the ice, kind of like, kind of slowly ease them into the conversation. And then you can drop in that question. And it's a very, very simple question. It's positioned in such a simple way, almost in layman terms, right? Purposely to make it easy for them to digest. So they don't have to think about it too much. Even if they're not even sure what we mean by it, it's pretty clear. We're saying, can a company rent your property? Right? Whereas if I said, are you open to a corporate let? They're like, what? What's a corporate let? Oh, rent to rent. What's rent to rent? Right? But if I say, oh, can a company rent this property? Would you mind a company renting it? 9 times out of 10, just the curiosity alone helps us open up that conversation and take it a little bit further. So that's just a little gem I'll give you. Start asking the question that way when you speak to landlords. Don't mention any other jargon, any phrases that you would normally use when you're speaking to an investor. Just ask them, are you okay with a company renting the property? And see the response you get. Okay. So after you've kind of overcome that first little hurdle of the convo, you want to give them all of the benefits of what it is we're proposing. So they're going to get guaranteed rent. There's going to be no maintenance or management costs. Pretty much our clients will take the hassle off your hands. You hand the property over to them. They have their own guests and tenants they will handle. Any issues with the property, unless it's something structural, you know, they will handle it. So we just want to give them those benefits so they understand why it's even worth them exploring what we're proposing. Then we're going to secure the deal formally with a heads of terms document. So as we was discussing earlier, the heads of terms, the HOTS, this is how we secure the deal, essentially. Now, it's not a legally binding document. I know I've said that a few times, but I just want to be clear on it. This is not the document that finalizes the deal. This is just to confirm what we've proposed and that the landlord is okay with it, essentially. And being honest with you, sometimes the landlord might not even be open to signing the heads of terms. Just sometimes people are a bit funny about signing things prematurely. They want to see viewings happen, and they want to see that there's actually someone genuinely interested before they start signing things. So in that situation, what we do is we suggest that you just get confirmation in writing. An email is fine. And all we do is the information that we put in the heads of terms, we just put it in the email. So it's exactly the same thing as you guys, well, I assume you guys know, anything electronic in writing, WhatsApp messages, emails, etc., text messages can stand up in court. So this is why we want to make sure that we get that confirmed. If we needed to pursue someone legally about this deal, we want to have all of these things in writing. Yeah. So everyone clear on that? Everyone clear on that part of the process? Securing these deals directly from the landlords? Just give me a yes in the chat. We still got 12 people on, which is brilliant. I know I've been going on for quite long. I'm going to try and wrap it up really quickly now, but just let me know in the chat. Is everyone clear on that? Okay. And also I can see Brenda said on Gov UK. Okay. I'm not aware of that. I don't know how it's gone to £50. The last time I checked, it was still like £12. So that's actually quite a big increase. But just double check on that, because that sounds more like what I think it's Trust or Lawrence is talking about. That's what I thought he was referring to, where a company will set up your business, but they will also give you like an online address and set up a business account and all these different things. That sounds more like the £50 kind of cost. I don't know how they're charging £50 just to register the company. Really, really strange. But yeah, everyone just double check it, just make sure, and then get yourself set up. Trust that it costs £15 to set up per company and get a business account. So again, see, this is the type of prices that I would expect to see. But again, when you set up your account with, or your business with on the Gov site, you're not getting a business account and all these other things. So usually it's just that price for setting up the account. But I'll leave that with you guys to do the research on. Yeah. Okay. Lawrence asked, should you use the word company let? No, I would definitely stay away from the word company let, Lawrence, especially when you're speaking with agents. There's so much confusion around this when you speak with agents, because when agents hear company let, they assume you're talking about a company renting the property and then housing their staff or their employees. But of course, that's not what we're referring to. That's something completely different. So sometimes that can get like, that confusion can happen if you start using that phrase. So yeah, try and stay away from company let. If anything, I would use corporate let, because that's essentially what we're doing. But even that, I try and stay away from, especially when I'm speaking with landlords, because as I explained, you start using phrases like that and you just confuse them. So try and say it in a way that's really easy for anyone to digest. And I think the easiest way to do that is to just, are you okay with a company renting a property? It's worked really, really well for us, by the way. So this is not just me suggesting it. This is what we're actively doing and securing deals using. So, okay. So number 6. So we've gone through everything now. So just to recap very quickly, we've gone through the Facebook groups, why they are gold mines, why they are so important to be part of, right? We're literally making hundreds of thousands just by leveraging these Facebook groups properly. Yeah. Facebook groups, picking your areas, high demand areas, building your list of qualified investors so you have people to go directly to when you start getting deals and sell the deals really quickly, generate interest within hours, right? Your network of co-sourcers and letting agents, and then working directly with landlords, which you can find on the classified sites, Gumtree, Facebook Marketplace, etc. Actually, another tip as well, to find classified websites, more classified websites, so you're not just dependent on Gumtree. Just literally go on Google and type in classified websites UK, and the list will come up with all of them. You've got like the Loot, you've got Pre-Loved. I've had a lot of deals from Pre-Loved. Pre-Loved is a very good site. I don't know how, it's not, I don't think it's as good as Gumtree now, but at a point there was, Pre-Loved was really good. And there's a few others as well. And the reason, it's just because that's where landlords are advertising their own properties. We want to be speaking with the landlords directly. We've got to be on these sites. So just take your time to do that when you're at that stage. So this is number 6, and this is the remote sales process. So selling these deals without having to ever physically be there. Yeah. This is where the money is made if your foundations has been set. So what you're doing, and this is kind of referring back to the diagram that I showed you, but just in short, you're touching base with your network every week to secure deals to sell. Like I said, every Monday, you want to be on the phone speaking with your co-sourcers to see what new deals they've got or deals coming that week. If you just do that, if you've got a good network and you just do that, honestly, you could sell 4 or 5 deals a month just by doing that. If you was consistent with it and you had a genuine network of co-sourcers that are securing deals, and of course you've got the list. So as much as I'm saying, you can do that, the other foundations do need to be in place as well. But if they are, then just communicating with your network regularly, you can sell a lot of deals. That's what a lot of guys in the group are doing. We've got people in the group that aren't securing any deals themselves, by the way. They've just spent the time building the list, getting the list right, building the network, getting that right. And now all of their sales are coming from other people's deals, right? So, if you set this up the right way, you have the option. So we're contacting landlords directly via the classified websites every week to secure deals to sell. Then we're going to send the deals we've secured directly to the qualified investors on our lists. Like I mentioned earlier, you're going to use WhatsApp, email, text, whichever is easiest. The most important part is going to be the follow-up calls, because as I explained, 9 times out of 10, your investors are not going to see that message you sent, right? So it's your job to make sure they saw the deal, generate interest fast, handle any objections, get them booked in for reviewing ASAP. And this is, by the way, again, without having to post any deals, anywhere, in any groups, in any WhatsApp groups, Facebook groups, anything. This is literally just based on you being able to secure a deal and send it directly to your list to generate interest. So we book the interested parties in to view the property as soon as possible, and then we oversee the transaction till completion. And that is literally all we're doing. Again, we're not there. So there is actually only so much we can do, to be honest with you. But we have to keep our finger on the pulse the whole way through. The thing that keeps this deal together and keeps us in the deal, outside of course, the fact that we've got our paperwork signed, so we're protected in that sense. But just being practical, what keeps this deal together or keeps us in the deal is literally just the communication. You know, if I'm communicating with my investor to update him on everything, if I'm communicating with the landlord to make sure everything's going smoothly, or the agent or the co-sourcer, then everything should go to plan. Even if the deal ends up not happening, everybody should be still happy with me and happy to look at another deal very, very quickly. We just had someone the other day so close to selling the deal, and then it fell out of bed. Unfortunately, it didn't go to plan, and literally 3 days later, they had another deal. They had sent another deal out to their list, and that same investor was interested in that deal, and he ended up taking that one instead. Right. So if that sourcer was kind of like, oh, this deal hasn't happened, forget about it, I'm not going to speak to that investor again, on to the next one, and left it, they wouldn't have sold that next deal, you know. But because they stayed in communication and said, oh, well, actually, look, I know this one's falling out of bed, but actually there's another one. I've sent it out to the list, but just to let you know, there is another one in the area, and very quickly got them through the doors and just gave them the service, they ended up selling it. So this is really, really important. And as you guys know, this is all 100% remote. Yeah, we're not visiting any of these properties. And actually, this is a really good example. I don't know if you guys can see the whiteboard again. I know some of you can't, but there's just a screenshot here. Give me a yes if you can see this screenshot from Charlie, where he's talking about his the sale he just completed whilst he was on holiday. He was actually in Florida at the time, and it says here, selling deals whilst in holiday. And he mentioned this is what running your own sourcing business looks like if you're committed and put in the work. No excuses. I've just been paid for a deal I sold whilst I was in Florida. And the screenshot here of the payment coming in, he got paid 3K. And like, there's so many examples of this from the guys and myself. I've been on holiday many times and been paid for deals. We don't need to physically be there. So there's no reason why that can't happen. Yeah. So, okay. That is the steps that you guys will be using. So now, before I continue, I just want to make sure I'm not missing any questions. And I just want to also open the floor to ask, is everybody clear on what I've just gone over? Lawrence said, I can't see it. Okay, apologies, Lawrence. I'm not too sure why some of you are and some of you aren't. But again, don't worry. This is all recorded, so you'll be able to watch the presentation and see what I'm trying to show you guys in the background anyway. But hopefully, just from how I'm explaining it, you guys are understanding what I'm getting at. Is there any questions at all, guys, about what I've gone over? Anything that you're unsure about? Ravi said, very helpful. No worries, Ravi. Thank you so much for jumping on as well. I'm not finished just yet, guys. Just give me a second, but I just want to make sure before we move on, I haven't missed any questions. Okay. So the next part is strictly for the guys that are interested in actually getting started with this business. So you want to get your deal sourcing business started. But most importantly, just from what I've broken down for you today on this masterclass, and also from the content, so because I know some of you guys have been following me maybe for a while, or you've just joined the free deal sourcing community on the school platform, where I've put loads of information as well and resources. For those of you who have gone through all of that information and you've taken the time to listen to this presentation and go through the information, I'd like to know, and just let me know in the chat, because the next part is only going to be for these people, who believes that this is something that they could do, right? Whether you go off and do it on your own or whether you work with me and I help you, do you believe that this is something that you can do? Can you see how it would work for you practically? Just give me a yes in the chat. Ravi says yes. Trust says yes. Sam says yes. Okay, brilliant. For 2 says yes. Brenda, okay, brilliant. So everyone, so the reason why I'm asking that question is because that's my way of finding out whether or not the way I've broken it down, the way I've explained it, if it has been easy to digest. And that's really what I'm trying to get across. I want it to be really actionable. So now, for those of you who have said yes, and again, for those of you who haven't said yes, but maybe in your mind you're thinking this is something you could do, I'm going to continue the presentation. And the next part is going to be me breaking down for you how I can help you using the program. So all of the examples that we saw above, all of the results, all of the sales, the program that these guys have joined in order to get these results, I'm going to break down how you can also have access to that program. And I'm actually going to give a special offer that I've never actually given before in all the 3 years and after the hundreds of clients that have come through the program. I've never ever given this offer before, so it's actually a very special offer. So, but this is only going to be for those who feel they are ready to get this started. They know that they could do this, and they believe that actually with me on their side, giving them 24/7 support along with my team, just like I have with all of these other guys you've seen, that you could get started and do this. If you do believe that, then stay tuned, keep watching, because I'm going to go over how the program works, what I'm offering, costs, etc., etc. For those of you who are not interested in that, you do not need any support, you do not need any community, you don't need all the documents, you don't need everything that comes along with the program. You're not interested too much about getting the type of results you've seen all of those guys get, then obviously I'm happy for you to depart. All right. I really, really appreciate your time, though. It's been amazing. I think we covered quite a lot. And hopefully I answered all of your questions efficiently.